pens. I don't have my visitors' pens.
So what you say?
You good?
I'd like to call to order our regular community redevelopment agency meeting. The time is 6:01 p.m. The date is May 22nd. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Chair Lawson,
Here.
Vice Chair McCoy, Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Present.
Commissioner Lanier,
Here.
Commissioner Spiritus.
Here.
Also present on the dais, Attorney Opal McKinney Williams, Attorney Chris Smith with Pittman Law Group. Anita Jenkins, Director of Neighborhood Services, will be joining us virtually. Scott Evans, Director of Planning and Development. Jonathan Evans, CRA Executive Director, and Shirley Desir, Interim CRA Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If we could have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Dr. Glenn Spiritus. Moving on to agenda, do we have any additions, deletions, or substitutions?
None from staff, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Board, disclosures from the commissioner staff? Motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner Spiritus,
Yes.
Chair Lawson.
Yes.
That vote passes 4-0.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Consent agenda is routine in business. The consent is approved by one single majority vote. Would anyone like to pull an item from consent? Motion to adopt consent?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Do we have any public comment cards, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chair, we have no comment cards.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier, Commissioner Spiritus,
Yes.
Chair Lawson.
Yes.
That vote passes 4-0. Mr. Chair,
Madam Clerk.
Mayor is now on the dais.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, 5A.
5A presentation, Marina Village update.
Thank you. Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, if I can have the Planning and Development Director, Mr. Scott Evans, to make this presentation and also introduce the individuals that will be presenting this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This first item is an update on the Marina Village project. Element 7 and Element 8, the board approved a 99-year ground lease for those properties. And the related group who is developing and I would invite the related group to come up. I believe they're Mr. Milo.
Good evening, members of the board. Al Milo, president of Related Urban, and thank you for the opportunity to give the board an update on the project and where we are to date on that. Is it the slides here and there? So as Mr. Evans mentioned, we're working on Element 7 and Element 8. We are the first phase that we're going to be working on and starting construction on is Element 8. There, just give you a little bit of an aerial view of both of the Element 7 is on top, Element 8 on the bottom there. But I'll walk you through, where we are in the timeline, and if the board has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. These are just different AMI levels of element 8. As you see, we have a combination of some affordable units and a lot of workforce/market rate units for this area. 75% of our project, 111 units within our project, are between 80 and 110% of AMI. Right now, 110 is probably the top of the market in the area, and they're broken out depending on our unit mix. They're prorated across the different unit types to make sure that there's access at all different income levels to all of the type of units that we are providing. Where we are as it relates to our financing, we were awarded, as we mentioned to the board, and the last time that we were going to be applying for state funds, we were the one and only deal in Palm Beach County that was awarded these funds as the first round of state funding under this mixed income funding that was passed by the legislature last year. We got $16.2 million awarded, and the main condition of this funding is that we must start prior to April, and our goal is to start at the end of the year. And I'll talk to you about that and our approvals and what we're working on. In addition to that, we recently applied for funding from Palm Beach County's bond program. We were one of 2 deals. We were the only workforce housing deal that was proffered and passed by the board about 2 weeks ago. We got another $4.7 million from their bonds. So the project also, this is the timeline from Palm Beach County. They're going to go back to their board on June 4th to see what allocations they're going to approve, and then they're going to set their millage rate to move forward on those bonds. So this project was actually used as a model project with the type of bonds and the type of mixes and AMIs that the county would like to support with their bond program. These are some of the professionals that are working on our team. We are going to be submitting for entitlements for both element 7 and element 8 as per our contract together by the end of June. We had our meeting today also with your team has been very helpful, along with the city team, the development director on that. So all the entitlement package will be going into the city by the end of June, because the goal is to break ground by the end of this year. Obviously, it's subject to how fast we can do the entitlements. There's part of the rezoning aspect that needs to happen as both of these projects are getting approved together. So our goal is, to continue to work with staff and the city to expedite that approval. We get that zoning approval, we'll close within 30 to 45 days of that. So that's what we're working towards. Again, we have to close prior to April. No longer, we believe we can do it quicker. This is the milestones, again, that we talked about for the approvals of the entitlements. As I mentioned, we're working on submitting them by the end of June. And those are the different approvals that we're going to need to get from the city side in order to get the entitlements. And as you see, there's going to be different steps and different approvals that are going to be required, along with up to 2 readings based on the zoning ordinance that the city has in place. That's it as far as the update on the presentation. But if the board has any questions, I'll gladly field them.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you. Dr. Scrivens, go ahead.
I have a question concerning this project. I guess it's the affordable housing portion of your 3 towers. This is being submitted under Live Local?
Is it being submitted under Live Local from a
Yes.
zoning perspective?
Yes.
No.
So the city, are you planning on paying full taxes on this property?
We have an agreement with the city as far as the CRA. That's part of our current agreement.
Right, that's my question is, I know that you received some Live Local funds, and I was wondering whether you're going to try and trigger the tax abatements that go along with Live Local, or whether you were going to stick with the city's agreement with respect to, I guess it's a payment in lieu of taxes?
Yeah, no, it's actually, it's sort of a payment in lieu, but no, we're actually we have funding under the Live Local Act from the legislature side,
Right.
but that funding is separate and apart from the tax abatement portion of Live Local. You can't do both. The Live Local Act does not allow you to do both. You got to pick either or. If you don't get their gap funding, then you can avail yourself of the tax break section. But if you get the tax break, you can't avail yourself of the funding. So we got the funding.
Okay, great. All right, Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Dr. Spears.
follow up?
Go ahead.
Okay, with respect to the two market rate rental towers, when are you planning on coming out of the ground with that?
So as I mentioned, we're gonna entitle the whole site, both sites, Element 7 and Element 8. We're currently gonna start working on our financing package for that. One of the things that I mentioned that is extremely important is to build up the market rents in this area, right? Our first phase of Element 8 has units reserved up to 110% of AMI. Those units are $2,600 or so for 2 bedrooms. We believe that right now that is the market in the area, probably pushing some of that. So we need to get that going to establish that pattern and get those values up. But our plan is to move expeditiously to work on the financing of that phase. But Element 8 is the big catalyst, if you will, to make sure that Element 7 can support those rents and especially those costs for a 20-story project.
So, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Dr. Spears.
Okay, so then if you are unsuccessful in developing that market rate, what guarantee does the city have that you're going to build the other 2 buildings?
If we're unsuccessful,
Yeah.
I think the agreement talks about what happens. I think we have a timeline to start and start that construction. So what I can tell you is that as a group, we're rarely unsuccessful because we make sure that we don't overpromise and underdeliver. When we got involved in this deal, it's been a little over a year, and here we are at the table ready to, like I said, as soon as our entitlements are ready, we're ready to break ground. We were able to procure $21 million for that first phase. We have a very successful track record, but we have to get Element 8 up and going so the lending institutions feel comfortable in the market to get those higher paid market rate rents, which is what our agreement states.
Okay, Mr. Chair?
Dr. Spears, go ahead.
Okay, so Mr. Evans, can you tell me what the agreement actually says pertaining to having to build all 3 buildings?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Yes, the lease agreements are different for each project. They have some specific timelines in them. The one for Element, both have similar timelines, but they're independent of each other. And I believe the lease agreement for Element 7 provides that they have to obtain site plan approval within 18 months of the completion of the execution of that lease agreement. And then it provides an additional, I believe, 3 to 4 years for them to construct it.
Okay, Mr. Chair?
Dr. Spears.
Okay, so I'm a little older than most people here. I've seen the economy collapse a couple of times, unfortunately, and I was a developer during those periods. What happens if the economy drops and we don't have a market for these rental units? We're probably going to have one building that's being financed almost 100% by the state and federal government, because you're going to go for tax credits as well, I assume, because I see the 50% AMI. So I assume you're going for tax credits as well.
For 25% of the project.
Right. So we could end up having a low-income / almost a workforce housing project built on the prime property in the city and not have the other 2 buildings ever developed. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair?
Scott Evans, go ahead.
If the process proceeded like you described, then that would be the case. If they didn't proceed on development of Element 7, then they would be in violation of their lease agreement. So that would be terminated. We would then, in that case, keep that deposit. We're very encouraged by the fact that they're proceeding with the entitlement process. We think that adds value to the property. So should Element 7 not proceed for market-related conditions, we will at least have added that entitlements value to the property, and then the lease would be terminated if it's not amended back to the CRA's ownership. And there is always the option for this board to consider an amendment to the lease.
So that, Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, that's finished.
So then basically, I think you're agreeing with me. I think we can end up with one tower there, an affordable housing / low-income housing building, and vacant land for us to figure out what to do with. Yes, we'll get to keep the deposit, but this could be, this could be 3 years down the road. Is that what you're saying, to finish the construction on the first building, or to finish the construction on building 2 and 3?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Mr. Evans.
The two timelines related to element 7 would be added together. So they have 18 months plus the additional 3 to 4 years. And I believe Nick Finelli might know which of those two numbers it is. So potentially from this moment on, they would have 5 years to complete construction of element 7. Since they're proceeding with the first phase, which is element 8, we're hopeful that that would come out of the ground very soon. But of course, we don't have any guarantees that element 7 would proceed.
So then we're getting an affordable housing building right now. That's basically what our presentation is tonight. And then we have to wait and see what the economy and what the financing and what the market is going to permit before we see the other 2 towers.
Can I respond to that?
Please, go ahead.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the current project is not an affordable housing project. It's 75% non-LIHTC units. There are units in there that range between 80 and 110% of AMI, which are earners between $60,000 and $82,500 for a single person household. That's far from an affordable housing project. So it has an affordable housing component, but it is a mixed income project based upon the agreement that we have. Again, that is the catalyst in order to substantiate any type of market rate rents over $2,000 in this area. So if you go appraised today, it'll be hard to get those type of rents from a market rate perspective. So it's not a 9% tax credit deal. It's not a 100% LIHTC deal. It is a mixed income deal with the non-LIHTC component, which is 75% of the project, is basically right what is today probably market rents, and possibly a little bit higher than that.
Right, but Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, that's finished.
Right, but market rate is what the community could afford to pay. And we know that that's very low in Riviera Beach, in this area. And when you're talking about 37 of your 146 units being 50%, well, actually 30% to 60%, I would consider that pretty close to a low-income phase of the project. So that's a large portion of 146 units.
It's 25% of the project.
Yeah. So I get that. But that is low income. This is the most valuable piece of property, or one of the most valuable pieces of property in the city right now. This is my concern, is that, and I know related, I know your history. You have a good history. You did a nice job, by the way, in West Palm Beach on the water. You did a beautiful building. I see that this is almost the same building, just your facade has changed a little bit at your entranceway. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same building. Great building. We'd like to see it. I wish those 2 buildings were the buildings you were building first, and you were building the affordable housing second. And that's my concern. If you were coming out of the ground at the same time, I'd say this is the greatest project in the world. But the fact that you and I both know the economy goes up and down, and we're putting a lot on this one project right now, and to only see that phase of the project being developed, I'm concerned.
You next, Peters.
Mr. Chair,
Mayor, go ahead.
question to Mr. Evans. Is this deal set? Now, are we locked into this deal?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Yes, we have completed 99-year ground leases. They have requirements in them that the developer is required to meet, but as long as they meet those requirements, that the 99-year ground lease is in effect.
Mr. Chair,
Mayor, go ahead.
does the CRA have an out in the contract?
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Evans, go ahead.
I would have to rely on the attorneys to respond to that, but ultimately, the project requires site plan approval before it proceeds. So until that occurs, the project can't begin.
With the agreements, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Ms.
with the agreements that we
Smith.
have, the CRA always has an out. There'd be significant penalties to pay on getting out of such a complex deal in which we have multiple properties and multiple agreements. But the city always has an out. It would just be how much are we willing to pay for those outs.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Mayor.
what, give me a number of what it can possibly be.
It would be hard to give you a number now, sir. I'd have to look at each agreement and see what the I guess penalty would be for us and what we'd have to come up with. But it would be in the seven figure.
Is it? Any other comments, Mayor?
No, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, come back. Well,
Mr. Chair.
let me go to Commissioner Lanier first. Dr. Spears? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, of course, everyone knows my feelings about this project. It started 8 years ago. We're still here. Nothing has come out of the ground. The finish line keeps changing. The players keep changing. And every time we have a conversation about this, there are changes. And I understand that you have to do different things to be able to have such a deal. But with this prime property, there is no way this should have took this long. This is at the ocean. Nobody would have a problem with developing that fast. And for us to be sitting here 7 years later, still having a conversation about it, and no disrespect to you, sir, from Related, but this has been going on for a long time. And we have, here and now, or even before, we were hearing about senior housing, we were hearing about low income housing, but why would you put such a thing at that site? It is luxury at best. You should have something that is going to generate income for the city. And the way that it stands now, it does not. And, you're not sure of, you build these places and then you have a whole retail piece to it. Now, I don't know what, in terms of affordable housing, what that lends itself to, but it's certainly not, Gucci or whatever. It's something else. So if you want to generate income, and that is what the city needs desperately, we're going to have to do something with this property that is going to do that. And the way that this stands, it just keeps getting bogged down and this deal and this over here. And it's just so convoluted that, to pull this apart is you got middlemen, you got all type of people involved in this, and it's not to the city's benefit. And I've said this from the very beginning. This deal is not to the city's benefit at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Spears, go ahead.
I brought this up to staff, and I'm not sure if this is doable or if it's even acceptable to Related. And I think it was looked at once before. Once we build this building on this site, there's going to be very little we could do with the site if you don't build the other two buildings. My recommendation is to find another site to build this building. The city does own property on the other side of Broadway. I know it might take amending the RFP, it might take amending the development agreement, but I think it's something that we have to seriously look into, because then if the market does collapse, it doesn't impact the development of that entire site, because that site can be developed as a commercial site, if that building is not there. Once that building is there, we're almost stuck with the residential aspect in that area. Mr. Evans, can you speak to that? What it would take to move that building to the other side of Broadway, let's say the subway site?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
um, Commissioner Spiritus, I would request that we would have to study that. The sites are of similar size. The design of the structure would need to be amended from what they're currently proposing since it's a different shape, the Spanish Court site. But I believe they're of similar acreages. The other thing we would have to explore is um, the impact on the existing lease that we've just been discussing, and then the process that would be required to proceed on that on a different property.
Thank you. Additional comments?
Yeah, I have a,
Commissioner Lanier, go ahead.
there are, different, 8 different elements to this, deal, and, maybe 3 or 4 different contracts. And the thing about it is that initially, this was supposed to be a deal where there was, something like a master developer. That means that everything would come out of the ground at the same time. But the way that this is looking, it may or may not happen. And then if it goes, if the economy goes, which it looks as if it will, we'll be stuck with the building that has nothing around it. And it's just, I don't understand how, if you are doing this whole marina project, that things are not happening at the same time. You got one thing happening here, but actually you have nothing happening. You have to. It just really is a deal that should be scrapped. And I said this from the beginning. It should be scrapped and it should be sent back out, because the way that this is looking and the way that it's looked for the last 7 or 8 years, nothing has happened at that site. Not saying you're going to do anything. I'm just saying that the way that this is structured and the way that this is happening, we may or may not get things at that site. We may get affordable housing. We may get market rate housing. We may get some. It's all a maybe. And it's because you've had, this whole master agreement, all of the timelines that were listed in that have been just run over, because none of them, they passed none of those. They were not on time for any of that stuff. And it seems as if every meeting, it is something else about this deal. And if you're going to look at this deal as a entire deal, then it needs to be happening at the same time. Because you build one building and then, I've seen this happen. That happened to Ocean Wall. You built it and then it stood empty for 10 years. So it's we have had that happen to us before. So, excuse me, of being skeptical of this, because number one, it's taking so long, and number two is because the players change, and the deals change, and the middlemen become other middlemen, and it's just ridiculous the way that this thing has gone down, and we're still having conversations about it, and nothing has come out of the ground. So, that is my feeling, and I'm sure that people know that that is my feeling about this project, because I think that with that project at the marina, at the ocean, that we should get top dollar for that. That we should be able to generate enough income with that property to keep us flush for a minute. This is at the marina, this is at the ocean. I don't think that people would be trying to go, developers would be trying to go and get government money for that. They would build it outright because they can make money off of it. But the way that this stands, you're going to get this funding from the state, this funding from the government for oceanfront property. So I have had this conversation numerous times, especially when this comes up. In terms of the site at the subway, yeah, I would say scrap this whole thing, because the way that this stands, it's going in a direction where you may have one, you may have the other, I may not have retail. There's 6 other elements to it. It's just not working for us. And that is my position from the very beginning with this project. Thank you.
Sure.
Hold on. Councilman Nguyen, say anything? No? Mayor, go ahead.
Councilwoman Lanier, are you requesting that the whole project is thrown out?
Yes.
And I sort of agree. I think we've been here 5 years, and with all due respect, I think many chances, and this has nothing to do with Related, because I think Related came on
A year ago.
later. But this whole process, and in 5 years, we have not had nothing to come out of the ground. It's been changing since day one, and all respect to Tony and his group, but I don't see it changing anytime soon. Now, the question is, what happens, and I'm not saying the board will or would not throw this out, but what happens if we throw the whole thing out to the attorney?
Chair.
Hold on one second.
Oh, okay.
Mayor, looking for the answer, of course. Mr. Smith?
I spoke to the mayor earlier. We're going to work with the other attorneys involved in this to get you an answer of how to unwind this entire process and begin again.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, hold on one second, board. Hold on a second. Councilwoman Lanier, go ahead.
To follow up to that, I'm saying when I say throw it out, I understand that there may be some penalties for that. I'm saying that that's what I would like, but I know that I'm probably in the minority with that. But in terms of this deal should be this way. This is prime property. The city should say, this is what we want. We want luxury housing. We want upscale stores. We want all of this here, and it should be done because guess what? That's at the ocean, and people who would do the project would make money. But the way that it stands, we're waiting on tax credits, and we're waiting on the county to give us money, and that's not the site for this kind of deal. And I just think that we should look at, for my say so now, throw the whole thing out. But I understand that that is something that cannot be done overnight. It is something that has to be looked at. But certainly it should be something where the city says, this is what we want. And if you can't do it in this amount of time, then it doesn't go. Because what's happening is that we're negotiating. We're going back and forth, and we're giving you the benefit of the doubt, and we're working with you. We're working with you. But at this point, it should just be shut down. And the city says, listen, this is what we want. This is what you're going to provide for us. And if you can't do that, we'll find somebody who will.
Commissioner Spiritus.
My colleague, Commissioner Lanier, when you say throw it out, are you referring to the residential portion or the commercial portion of the project, or both?
Thank you. President Malo?
Just to respond again, as you mentioned, Mayor, we got involved in this about a year ago. So what we asked this board to do and what we proffered to this board and what that agreement says that this board approved, we're adhering to. We were supposed to break ground by a certain date. We're adhering to that. We're supposed to submit site plan by a certain date. We're going to adhere to that for both sites. Right? So there's nothing in this current agreement that the board approved that we're not adhering to. I understand the frustration from the years past. I get it, but you can try to say, hey, this is the use that we want on our site. It is your asset. That is something obviously you can do. However, if the capital markets don't support that use, it's just not going to get built. So what we're talking about is, again, 75% of this first phase on element 8 are for single households that make between $60,000 and $82,500. I'll give you the chart for Palm Beach County. That is not affordable housing per se. You have to crawl before you walk. You got to walk before you run. That's what element 8 is about. And I hear you. It is prime property. If we didn't think we can get market rate units on element 7, we'd have never signed on to a development agreement saying that. Because we've never failed on any project that we've endeavored, and we're not going to start with this one. So I just think that we're adhering to everything that this board asked us to do. All right.
Mr. Chair. Hey,
Mayor, go ahead.
you said we couldn't get market rate?
I said that 110% rents and workforce probably exceed an appraisal for market rate in this market today as we speak.
Mr. Chair,
Mayor?
Mr. Spirit Councilman Spirit suggested, made a proposition to switch this project to across Broadway to another one of our properties. Mr. Evans said it's about the same acreage, right? Scott?
Mr. Chair,
Evans, go ahead.
I believe so, yes.
I'm asking the board, so we're not just wiping out affordable housing or workforce housing, that whole plan. Is it something this board should look at to say, should we move that from our prime property? And it still would be in a great place off of Broadway with the development that's going to go on. Is that something this board should take a look at?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Mr. Jonathan Evans.
That particular parcel that we refer to as the Miami Subs parcel that is owned by the city and CRA, that parcel was not contained in the solicitation document. So you would not be able to add that particular parcel to this particular agreement. We have at the staff level had numerous conversations about this probably about a year ago, looking at the same situation. And so when we did review that and had conversations with legal, it was that we could not add that into the solicitation. The other side of it is with respect to the workforce or affordable element, the conversation that occurred at the board level was that if we are going to move forward with two 20-story towers and they were going to be market rate, that the board did not want to look tone deaf to the situation that was present in our community concerning the development of Marina Village, that there would not be a situation where those that are working class residents would not have an opportunity to effectively live on the water. So the board moved forward with activating this particular parcel. Now, this parcel is challenged. It does have obstructions in front of it. It has the water tank that's in there. And so it is, for all intent and purpose, in prime real estate as it relates to Marina Village, but it does not have unobstructed views to the water. And so that's where the discussion concerning the workforce element came from. It was a situation where the board wanted to ensure that both those that are your higher income earners and those that are your working class residents did have an opportunity to live on Marina Village. And so that's how this particular relationship was consummated.
Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman Miller Anderson.
You know, I certainly understand the frustration of people because this has gone on for a long time, but as Related has stated, they just came on board a year ago. I do believe that they are moving in the direction in which we asked for them to do. Also, I know that area is near water, and we would probably like to get as much money out of that as we can, but we need to be aware that when you have people, first of all, $60,000 to $80,000, I can assure you some teachers are not making that. So you would not, that is not, you know, that's not too far off from, I mean, that those are not low income numbers, 60 to 80,000. You have teachers that are making 50, 40, maybe 60. So it's not low income. But what I do want people to please pay attention to is if we continue to put all of these luxury homes, that is going to change the dynamics of our neighborhoods. If we're talking about 60 to 80,000, that will put in people who are working class people. And, you know, not to go too far away from what we're talking about, but we're looking at redistricting. Well, the city council is looking at redistricting. So you need to think about all of those things when you're saying we want, you know, these luxury buildings here, because that will push a lot of people out. And I do believe, as a born and raised Riviera Beach person, if I was not on the council, I've been here all my life, that would be somewhere I would like to have an opportunity to live too. And so I think it's only fair for those who have lived here to be able to remain here, because if we continue to put extremely high rent places in our city, it is going to change who lives here. So I think a mix is needed, and having this here related, they're not slow poking about things right now. And I just want people to understand too that if we continue to go 2 or 3 feet ahead and keep backing up 10 or 15 feet, no one's going to want to do business with us, because it's almost like we can't make a decision. Unfortunately, it's been rocky getting up to this point. For this portion of the marina, it seems like we're getting somewhere. I look forward to listening to the other part to see how we're coming along on the north side of the marina event center and the other part. Um, I have had thoughts about throwing it out as well, but we need to really be cautious about starting something and throwing it out, and especially since we've gotten this far with this portion here. I mean, I feel we're getting somewhere on this. I do. I really do. The other portion, that conversation still needs to be had as well. But I'm not comfortable with throwing this out because we're getting somewhere.
And I just want to piggyback on that. And I've listened to the comments and concerns of my board. The biggest thing that my colleague just said is development without displacement. This gives us an opportunity to develop our waterfront, to activate and spur growth in our corridor, and to get things moving. We have a major developer that's at the table that wants to invest millions of dollars into our community. And the first one in 20 years, because the last development that was done on this side of the bridge was Marina Grand. So I actually want to commend, before we continue, I know there's a lot of unreadiness here, but commend related Urban for the investment that you're bringing to the table. The fact that we're talking about them going to be awarded the #1 project in the state and the county for $20 million to invest into Riviera Beach. Those are dollars that are actually being brought to our community that they went out and got. We can't just say any developer would have been able to actually solicit these funds. Related went and they're investing in Riviera Beach. That's #1. I'm going to address some of my concerns first and then go back into some of the concerns that I heard from my board so that we can kind of decide how we're going to move forward. If we can pull up the entitlements update and the screen, I wanted to really address what are the women, local, and minority participation look like, because that's always been what I advocate for. I look at some of the entitlements and some of the partners that we have. I didn't see any local or minority contractors associated with that, but I want to make sure if we're putting this major investment that people from our community can benefit. So I recognize a lot of these firms, but I don't see any local or minority businesses. I don't see any women-owned businesses. I want to make sure that we're using the dollars that's coming into the community to impact the community. So all the entitlements, all the development, the construction, everything that's being done, I want to make sure we're giving our residents, the local businesses, an opportunity to benefit from it.
Yeah, and that's
Go
going to
ahead.
be part of which also in the agreement, we have a separate community benefits agreement that we're working with staff on, and that's going to be geared to a lot of those construction contracts, which is something that we do at Related Urban and all the projects that we do, because I would say 90% of our work is public-private partnership work. So we understand that, and that's part of our partners also are going to be helping us do that community outreach to get some of those small businesses to get the ability to get the construction work on the project, which is the biggest dollars out there, right? I would say of the project, you're talking about more than half is construction dollars. So yes, that is definitely part of our approach.
But even to that point, getting to that point of the construction is my concern. Dollars from day one, I want to make sure that our community is benefiting, because even with the entitlements, the contractors, the engineers, the architects, I want to make sure that we're using local talent and benefiting the community, because the contractors, if we get there, and I hear the concerns of my colleagues, and the timeline is my second concern. So local participation, community outreach is priority #1. But from the beginning, because we're going to be spending, from what I heard in my agenda review, over $1 million in just entitlements. So if we can make sure that local participation is benefiting from some of these dollars going out from day one. #2 is going to be the timelines. My biggest concern is element 8 is going to be a catalyst, but being clear with this board, because we've already signed we've moved forward with the lease agreement. We've moved forward with the terms. If element 8 is the catalyst, what is the exact timeline on element 7 and 8? And what does 7 look like? And when will we start construction on 7? I believe, Mr. Milo, you did say that we're going to build, see what the rent rolls look like, and then move forward with 7 after we build 8. But what is that exact timeline? If it takes 24 to 36 months, does that mean we're not going to break ground on 7 for about 3 years, 4 years? Is that what we're looking like?
Yeah, so the process is, and that we're gonna go entitle both sites as we mentioned, right? One rezoning, one project from that perspective. But once we close on element 7, and again, I'm sorry, element 8, if we can expedite the timeline in the entitlement process with the city, then we would like to close by December. And the benefit of that is also that now we have got established financial and capital partners that have approved market studies, rents, costs for the area. So it's not that we have to finish element 8 in order to start element 7, but we have to get that project closed to have that testament for the capital markets that, yes, we can then move to a grander scale with element 7. And from grander, I mean from a rent perspective, from a market rate perspective, right? So we gotta, if someone is gonna stand up here and promise this board that they're gonna build what we build, Marina Village, that project was, had started during the pandemic, did great. There was a big run up in rents, right? Everybody's aware of that. Florida has been getting a lot of people coming here. Rents exploded. But if you start reading some of the trends now, right, they've receded. There's, in some areas they've tended down. Obviously, interest rates are much higher. So for anyone to stand up here and say, "Hey, listen, I'm the most experienced developer, and I'm going to build you a market rate project, and I'm going to start in 3 months and stuff," probably not true. Probably not true. What I can say is that, like I said before, we're Related as a company who started in 1979, and our track record speaks for itself. Related Urban has never started a project or tried to start a project, a public-private partnership that we've never been able to complete. So I will never be one to overpromise and underdeliver. I'd rather give you realistic expectations and be able to exceed those expectations. So it is a gradual process. We need to establish with the capital markets that we can get, the investment in here, and element 8 is that catalyst.
Right. And that is the realistic expectations that we expect. That's what I want my board to understand, even though this has been a long process, especially for this board. Some of my colleagues have been here the entire time, and I know they're frustrated, but they're also going to see it through because they were one of the main advocates that decided to stick with this team because they know that we could get it done, because they've seen the ups and downs of not just the market rate, not just the economy, but also the ups and downs of this board. And I completely agree with my colleague when she says if we continue to just throw projects out, we're going to never have a team that wants to make that commitment and investment into Riviera Beach. So I cannot agree with my colleagues that want to just throw this project out, because that makes no sense when we finally have a developer that is going to get entitlements to build market rate and workforce units in Riviera Beach. Related Urban has a national name. They also want to put multi-million dollars and have already secured $20 million and have only been at the table for a year and a half. So I cannot blame them for the issues that we've dealt with since 2019, 18, and before. I'm going to give them the accolades that they deserve, and hopefully we can continue to push forward with this project because I want to see some market rate at our unit. Last thing that I wanted to address is going to be some of the concerns my colleagues talked about, which is the affordable piece. Looking at the numbers, in my understanding, if we can pull up that slide, it looks like we're looking at a market rate and affordable mix. It doesn't look like this is affordable units. If we can actually bring up the slides with the number of unit mix. AMI, as my colleague, Councilwoman Miller Anderson stated, we need to make sure that it's affordable for our residents, but also make sure that it's somewhere that residents that are gainfully employed can enjoy, which is going to be closer to above market rate, 80 to 110%. That average salary and income is $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. That's not a workforce unit. That's not an affordable unit. That's close to the market rate. So having half of the building of close to market rate, I think is going to be really beneficial to actually spur the downtown corridor. And this is only going to be on element 8. My biggest concern, Mr. Milo, is that we need to make sure we don't just have a workforce affordable building on our marina. We would love to see, as Dr. Spear has said, all 3 buildings go up at the same time. How do we get there? How do we make sure that the team is going to invest? That's what we really want to push, because if we came to the table, I don't think Dr. Spears would have one concern if we had that market rate and that affordable coming at the same time, because now he knows we're having an investment. We can all work together, because we're, as a board, are going to expedite the process for permitting. We're going to do whatever we can to keep on staff to say, get this done for them, because we want to see growth there. We can't wait another day. So what does that look like? How do we address getting all 3 buildings as quickly as possible? Because this 5-year mark, we want to see both buildings up. Go ahead, Mr. Lala.
So that is gonna, we're united in that goal. That's the reason why we're entitling both sites together. And from an economic perspective, we'll have much more economy of scale if we're able to get those 400 and some odd units going with these 148 units. So for us, it is a much better approach also. We just got to make sure we get our financing secured to build that project. But rest assured, we're going to push everything within our power to make that happen, because it's a lot easier for us to have one crew of construction, one project management team, and knock out 500 and some odd units than to have to do it separately. But again, not going to be the one that's going to tell this board, listen, we're going to do this A, B, C, and D, and then not be able to come through on what we're saying.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead. Let's go with the mayor, then Commissioner Lanier.
2 things. And you said we're going to be pushing through permits. I ask that we refrain from that, because we got a whole lot of people that's waiting on permits right now. Secondly, I don't think it's a guarantee. I don't think they can guarantee us. If the market changes, that changes everything. So there's no guarantee for the other elements. So listen closely. I think Councilman Spirit has brought this up. So you're saying they can't guarantee us all of them are going to go up together, and they can't guarantee us the market. And so what I heard Councilman Spirit say, if the market falls, you're stuck with that one unit. So I think, again, we all champion affordable, right? And we pick and choose what we want affordable at. We don't want affordable on loan or military, right? That can be some affordable. So we pick and choose kind of what we want affordable at. But look at, I don't think it's a guarantee, and I don't think they can guarantee us that those other elements could be done if the market change. And I think that's what Dr. Spears was talking about. Thank you.
And to that point, Mayor, who is going to guarantee if the market changes or crashes that it can be done? We don't have anybody that can guarantee it. So it will be vacant regardless of if it doesn't or not. So I agree. And the second thing is, Mr. Jonathan Evans, the mayor made a great comment. There's a lot of people waiting on permits. I need you to make sure Development Services is working at a top notch, is highly effective, and we can help with all of the people, not just this team, but everybody that's got permitting. So if we need to address Development Services, I don't want my mayor concerned with people waiting on any person. So it wasn't special preference to Related or any team that's sitting in front of me now. It's as an organization, we need to make sure that we're willing at full steam ahead. So I don't want anybody waiting on permits. So Mr. Jonathan Evans, that's more on you to make sure Development Services is running tip-top shape. Councilwoman, Commissioner Lanier, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that as with Kashava, I was born here. I actually live in the house I was born in. So I've been here all my entire life. And I understand gentrification. I understand displacement. And I understand the fact that there has to be some component of the city that can meet the needs of affordable workforce housing. I understand that. But the way that this is set up, that may happen at this site. But let me say again to you, Mr. Related, that it's you came in on the back end of this. You came in, and it is very refreshing to hear someone keep their word, someone to say that they're going to do this, and then they, set about doing it. Because before that, we have not had that. We've been giving promises. We've been given We're going to do this. I've been here 5 years, and it was going on when I got here. So it's a situation where we're not trying to make you collateral damage at all. But what we do want to happen is that this was first envisioned as something that was going to happen all at once. That we were going to bring all this out of the ground, and this would be something that you got construction over here, construction over there, and everybody is this thing is going to happen. But the way that it stands, we're piecemealing it first of all, because you know what I had said early on that we should just put out all the elements for bid anyway. But the board went in another direction. With that being said, I understand your position in terms of your company because you are the only one that has come here and said that you were going to do something and actually did it. So that's very refreshing. But what I don't want to happen is that I don't want you to get into this like you're by yourself because there has to be things that are around you that supports that the retail, the other stuff that's supposed to be around the other six elements. And that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of this happening. You're building this building, excuse me, but then there's nothing around it. It's like you're stuck. So I really wanted to make sense that when we're doing this, we're pushing the whole Marina Village. We're not just pushing one piece of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Spears, go ahead.
I just want to clarify, Commissioner Miller Anderson. As you know, I'm a strong supporter of affordable housing. I sat on the Housing Authority for over 5 years. I myself am building workforce housing as a developer in another community. So I do support, and I've done this basically my whole life. My question and my challenge to the staff and to related is giving us more than an affordable housing project on this particular parcel. Uh, you know that we all expected this to be an entertainment mall concept when it was brought to the community. We thought that this was going to be mostly retail, if not all retail and commercial oriented for everyone in the city to be able to come and use the waterfront area and the marina area. Then it turned into a residential slash retail entertainment mall concept. So the plan changed in the middle of the game, and I know that related wasn't responsible for doing that, but we do appreciate you're here. My concern is if we just build one building, what are we doing to the potential development of that site? We're kind of stuck with that one building on the site, and we can have vacant land around it if the market should collapse. Uh, I know that other developers are going to take a risk on this city right now on Broadway. We know we have a market rate rental building being proposed where the old Winn-Dixie is. They're not concerned about whether or not the market can afford it or not. They're going to take the risk. We're asking, at least I'm asking, related to take that same risk on the city of Riviera Beach and build the affordable aspect and at least one tower at the same time. Come out and take that risk on us the same way you did in West Palm Beach. That was a risk in the area that you developed. You changed that area by what you did, but you were the ones that were willing to take that risk. And we're asking you, please take that same risk in our community. We will be there with you. We will support you. But please take that risk and come out with at least two towers, not all three. I know how hard it is to rent that number of units, especially when the market may go down. But other developers are going to do it, and we're asking you to please believe in our city and take that same risk.
Thank you, Commissioner Spears. Additional comments from the board? Well, again, I want to thank Related Urban. Thank you for your team for coming tonight and presenting. And thank you for the investment into the community.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
The development team for the hospitality elements have requested to amend the master plan for the Marina Village project. Those elements include a hotel, parking garage, waterfront restaurants, and are part of elements 0 through 6. The development team, including APD, Sonnenblick, and Tesrol, are working to finalize their proposed amendment, and they're also working with the related group to come up with a new plan that would have the consolidated support of all of the marina development partners. They have been working on their amendment for several months, and they've been making progress. But staff and Jones Lang and LaSalle, and here with us tonight is Nick Finelli, our P3 consultant. We're recommending the proposed timeline that we've shown on the screen above to proceed with their proposed amendment process. The timeline includes review of the proposed master plan by the CRA board on June 12th. That would be followed quickly by the board's review of the negotiated business terms on July 24th. And the third step would be CRA board review of a ground lease for those elements on August 28th. APD and Sonnenblick and Tesrol have been working on this proposed amendment that they're requesting, and they would like to bring it to you before subsequent board meetings. And again, they have a representative here, I believe, tonight if the board has questions, along with Mr. Nick Finelli from JLL. But staff is proposing this time frame for that amendment that they're currently preparing.
Commissioner Miller Anderson, go ahead.
Is this timeline in line with what we had put forth before, or has it pushed it back?
Mr. Chair.
Evans, go ahead.
We did meet the previous milestones that we had in the ENA agreement. This proposed timeline would present a process to go from a new master plan to a ground lease much quicker than the previous timelines we've had before. As of December, we had agreement on business terms, so we feel like if there is an amendment to the plan, that we can aggressively move it forward more quickly than the previous timelines that we followed. And we also wanted to establish an expedited process so that we can move from the requested amendment to completion of a ground lease, as we know that the board has expressed concern that this move quickly.
Any more questions, Commissioner Miller Anderson?
No, not at this time.
Commissioner Lanier, go ahead.
So I don't want to say, see what I'm talking about? This is what I'm talking about. This is what happens every single time. We get somewhere, we think we're somewhere, and then it comes back, and now we want to change it, and now we want some more time. And how much time do you need? This is something that really just, I have tried from the very beginning to get on board with this. I really have. And I know that there are individuals that are involved that, want to do these projects. But what happens is that it gets bogged down in these amendments and these changes. And I mean, at what point do we say, okay, that's it, we need to put this back out or whatever? Because this is just outrageous, because this is what we're doing again. We're looking at an amendment, we're looking at pushing it back, we're looking at a different timeline. It's just, it behooves me that we continue to just do this and to take it, because it is our land, to take this kind of treatment when you have a project that is right at the ocean and people can't get it together. That's really just says something about what we got going on, that we cannot enforce contracts. We can't enforce that this needs to happen or we'll find somebody else. That's what you do. You can't do it, then fine. We understand that. Then we'll find somebody else to do it. But the way that this stands, we keep going back and forth with the same people, back and forth, middleman here, somebody over here. Then it comes, and it's a whole new group then formed, and it's something. It's just not good for the city. And talking about having people look and see they don't want to do business, they look at deals like this and say, "Whoa, this is how they do business over there." So yeah, this business, this project makes us look bad, period. Because we always going back with amendments, we're always going back to change it, to move the timeline, to move the goalpost to get different people involved. To at what point do we say that's enough and we'll find somebody else? I don't know when that time is.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Commissioner. Mayor, go ahead.
let's start from the beginning. And I probably want to say what nobody else would say. 2019, when this came before for the commissioners, there was a group that won the RFP. The board then took the number two and said, "You guys work together." I don't know if that was legal, attorney. So, and so you got a number one. The board put both of them together to work, and so it's always been a middleman. All right, and so you have to start there, and it's no shade on the middle guy. But we're going to keep going down this road because it's no funding. I agree with Councilman Lanier. The goalpost has changed meeting after meeting, year after year, and it makes me wonder. Like, we're saying we're afraid if we change, developers are gonna come here regardless because we got what they want. So I'm not even afraid about that. But what it shows is, are we ready to really do business? A project that's going up in Lake Park, right down in Nollis, a year and a half. Look, our neighbor, Lake Park, is passing us. And so if you want to recommend about it, it's this board really has to look at itself to say, why do we, I agree with Shirley, continue to let this go? A year and a half, they got, you can see it all the way from West Palm Beach. And we're still fighting about, the only thing that's been built here is this building. And so, actually, ask ourselves that. Why do we bring two entities together when one won? And so we created a middleman. And that's what needs to change. And I don't have a dog in the fight. So I'm just going to call it the spade. The spade was right is right. And I think some of y'all are afraid to do that. But that's the problem. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Spears, go ahead.
Well, I do agree with the mayor and everything he just said right now with respect to the process. But we're here where we are right now. I'd like to respectfully request that the chair have the developers for the retail/commercial come up to the podium and give us the ability to question them, because I have some questions on how that's going to relate to the related portion of the project, and I have other questions for them, because I look at this as one project. I don't look at this as two separate projects, even though it seemed somehow it ended up being two different projects, but it's one project for me and for the city. So if we can get them to come up here, that I would appreciate that.
And I understand, but I think that if you have the questions for them, we should be looking, Commissioner Spiritus, at maybe a one-on-one or an update, because we as a board, we're just going to be kind of freestyling with these questions with this development team, because I think they just gave us updates. But if the pleasure of the board is to hear from the development team, we can, for, what is this, 0 to the 6?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Because we do have other business of the city to get to. So if we're going to be questioning the development team, we could do that as one-on-ones, but if the pleasure of the board is to ask these questions to them, we can. Because I believe staff was just prepared to just give us an update on where they are with negotiations.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Dr. Peters.
Well, the developers came in from Los Angeles and from Atlanta, and we're not going to always have the opportunity to meet with them one-on-one, and I like the public to be able to hear the questions and hear the answers. I think it's important that we do this transparently.
It's a pleasure of the board, Dr. Spraters. Would we like to hear from the development team? This is not an agenda item, nor was this an item that we were prepared for as the rest of our board. So transparently asking these questions, I don't think is going to be clear and transparent when the board wasn't ready for this. But if you have questions, I definitely understand the board. Would we like to hear from the development team?
Sure.
Commissioner Lanier, Ms. Miller-Anderson. I would not, but Ms. Miller-Anderson, it's on you.
I mean, I'm fine with it, but I don't want this to linger on too long, because we do have other things that are on the agenda that we got to get to.
We can put a 5-minute.
I have a lot of
minutes
questions
on.
for that team as well, but I mean, this is not the arena. Okay, pleasure of the board. Thank you.
Chair, I would say see how far we get. If it's going on too long, then we go to our one-on-ones.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Spears, go ahead. You wanted to have
Well,
questions?
can we have them come up to the podium so they can answer?
Well, I'm not sure everybody that's here from the team,
They're
Mr.
here.
Evans or
They're here.
Mr. Finelli, who all is here or available to answer questions.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Evans?
I believe representatives from APD as well as the Samba companies are here.
Mr. Vaughn Irons, I knew you were here, sir. Good to see you. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you so much, and commissioners, thank you for your time, your interest. Mr. Mayor, thank you for your interest in the process, and staff, thank you for your support moving forward. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have in the brief period of time you've allotted. Thank you.
Chair, can I go ahead and ask some questions?
Absolutely, please, Commissioner
Sure,
Davis.
thank you. One, thank you for being here today and being willing to come up and answer some questions. Can you just tell us briefly what your phase of the project includes with respect to the retail and commercial end of this?
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor did open up a particular door that probably leads to your process question that Commissioner Lanier mentioned. And so when we won the RFP back in 2018 and came in as number one, and then we were asked to merge with the number two team, it does create a process where there's a check and balance in order to have everyone proceed and move forward in support. So your question about our ability to collaborate with Related or my partner, Sonnenblick, on the commercial retail side, we move those parcels forward independently. So parcels 7 and 8 were assigned to Tesral as a part of that agreement and negotiation. APD, as you all may recall, has not been actively involved in the residential portions of the project. Elements 0 through 5 were specifically assigned to the APD team. And so as we've been working with staff, Sonnenblick, as our partner, has been specifically involved and engaged. And then element 6, in the effort to be fair with the amount of parcels and economics, APD and Tesral decided to split element 6 50-50, but APD and Sonnenblick has taken the lead in pulling those elements together. So to answer your question, what we initially negotiated and agreed to with staff is a hotel project. We have brought Margaritaville to the table. That hotel flag has been acquired. That's been shared with the public. We also agreed that we would bring 101,000 square feet of retail, experiential retail, to the development, and about 16,000 square feet of restaurants that would be on the waterfront. So that was our initial phase of the project, but we also proposed that we could bring our resources and capabilities to the table in order to support the city with two additional things. One, the parking. So as a part of our proposal, we suggested that we could fund and build the parking structure instead of putting the weight of that cost, bonding, or however you would finance it on the city. That was a part of our proposal that came before you already. We still stand behind that. And then we also submitted an unsolicited recommendation in order to be more actively involved in leadership and financing improvements related to the Marina Event Center. We think it doesn't make sense to make all of those other improvements on the property and not to make the event center commensurate with the rest of the development. Since the last time that we negotiated terms, we've been asked to do two things. One, we've been asked to reconcile what we've intended to do with the related portion of the project. And so you've gotten a briefing on the related portion of the project, and we have attempted to make adjustments to our plans as to not have a negative impact on the towers that they're going to build. And in the effort to be cooperative, we've been making changes and adjustments to that master plan. But in addition to that, we heard Commissioner Lanier and several others express concerns about the economics. So a part of what you can expect to see in this next version of the master plan, and the reason that we've asked for some additional time to work through with staff, is we've been successful in securing a second hotel flag that we intend to put on the project. So instead of having one hotel, the Margaritaville, we plan to add a second hotel to the project. We've also looked at adding some additional retail spaces. We want to expand the parking so that we can accommodate not just what's here today with what we propose, but to be prepared for the future since we offered to finance it. And then we've also looked at an opportunity to bring some luxury condominiums. And so having two hotels gives us an ability to have hotels at an affordable price point for families, in particular for those coming to the port, and a luxury hotel option. And we've secured both of those flags, and we just wanted an opportunity to present that to you in earnest so that we can show you that we heard you and we've developed a project that can double the economics that we presented to you previously. And so that's kind of where we are and why we've been showing indicators to the staff. We've redone the performas. We've been working through massing so that we can give you everything that you've seen and received on the previous submissions as we've made these adjustments.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Spiritus, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a couple follow-up questions. First of all, are you at liberty to tell us who that second flag hotel is publicly?
I am. So we've secured a Marriott hotel flag. And so we wanted to make a comparison so that the Margaritaville will have one family-friendly availability focus, and then the Marriott would be luxury. It won't be one of the different flags that's under the Marriott family tree. It'll be specifically a Marriott. So we were very pleased to be able to go into the marketplace and secure an additional hotel flag as a part of the development.
Okay, now, with respect to financing, is anything conditioned upon you getting the financing? Are you able to give us commitments from banks, from lending institutions?
Yes, and so as we've previously worked through the project, we've always had the ability to show financials. We've shared commitments from equity investors in the past. One of the great things with working with the Sonnenblick team is they manage their own debt and equity fund. And so the ability to come to the table, so they've been able to set aside and secure from their funding, and we've shared with staff just last week, $150 million on a construction line to get started. And so we would be prepared to share a commitment letter that's verifiable, and the contingency there is the approval of us moving forward with the master plan and thus the ground lease. But we have presented the lenders with the hotel flag commitments to be here on this site commensurate with what we've presented before.
Are you going to do this in phases, or are you going to do it all at one time?
Well, any project this size, you're kind of working on it continuously, but you're technically only building in phases because you don't want to have a negative impact on the other development. So if you are on all 6 parcels at one time, it's really just a construction site. For 3 or 4 years, nobody's ever going to be able to use the marina. And so our strategy would be to focus on the restaurants and retail as a part of our first phase in order to bring the destination appeal. And then the last portion of our project would be the furthest parcel, which would be 6, which would give you the second hotel and the additional parking, et cetera.
So the first hotel will be in phase 1.
The Margaritaville would be in phase 1.
Phase 1 with the restaurants, and how about parking deck?
Well, what we have planned is we're proposing to add a second parking structure that we're working very diligently to mask with retail on all 4 sides of the parking structure. So from the ground level, people would see kind of an active environment. They wouldn't be attacked by a large, parking structure, which would have a negative impact. Since that parking structure would be first on site, it would be a smaller parking structure. And then when we get to this, let's say not a second phase, but a 1A and a 1B. When we got to 1B on element 6, we would build the larger parking structure to accommodate all of the additional activities.
Okay, well, I have two more questions, and I think I'll be finished. But
and Commissioner Spiritus, and to that point, I do understand. But remember, board, this is not an agenda item. This was an update. And with the concerns, this is where I would like for us, Mr. Evans, with the reviews, having the one-on-ones, having the client meeting or having the meetings, and then having the community updates. Because a lot of these questions and these concerns could be done in a one-on-one basis. And then it can also be presented to the community with a community conversation, charrette, and we can have the discussion. But only reason that I'm asking these questions is because other board members have questions, Dr. Spiritus, and it was an agenda item. So,
Mr. Chair, I think it is an agenda item because
the
Mr.
presentation I
Mr.
had didn't
Evans
have
brought
anything
up,
like this.
Mr. Evans brought up the amendment of the site plan, and this is the amendment to the site plan. So I'm asking questions concerning the amendment to the site plan, so this is an agenda item.
Thank you. Dr. Spiritus, go ahead and ask your questions.
Okay. How quick, when we give you an approval, I guess your site plan approval, how quick would it take you to do construction plans and come out of the ground?
So our plan is to move forward diligently. We worked with staff to come up with this timeline recommendation. Once you approve the site plan, we still have to have the ground lease approval, of course, but we would start working on the construction design. Our architect is already active. We're already working through the massing. And Robert Ferrante from Sonnenblick Development. How long would you suggest it would take Jay to complete the CDs? So for the entire project, 7 to 8 months to complete the construction drawings.
Okay, so you'd be coming out of the ground approximately, 8 months from getting site plan approval and your development agreement. Okay.
That's correct. And I think one of the things that I would like to just share as a perspective, we are deal fatigued too. I mean, we've been here working with you through the entire process. We would be ecstatic to get the project moving forward and going as much as anyone else here. Our commitment is the fact that we've been here. Both of our companies are professional development teams. We have staffs in our offices that do developments. We have other similar assets in our portfolio. We're deal people. We want to see this move forward. We've been working very diligently to be cooperative. And so we want to get in the ground early next year. But as a part of our plan, we have some other things that we think we can do to activate and show proof of momentum and moving forward. We do have a list of tenants with letters of intent in order to bring restaurants and other activity to the site. I would also suggest that once we start construction, it takes a lot longer to build a 20-story residential tower than it does a 2-story restaurant. So there are things that we can bring to the community that can be activated in a short period of time. A 150-room hotel takes about 14 to 18 months to build once permitted. So there are things that we'll be able to show that will have a shorter demonstration of impact than that. And then we also, as part of some of our LOIs, have LOIs that are interested with restaurants that would like to go in the Marina Event Center. And those would be more tenant improvements, which could be activated simultaneously once we have the ground leases moving forward, so we can have something to show for it within the next year.
Mr. Chair?
Dr. Spiritus, go ahead.
So now, this ties into the related issue, at least my concerns. If related felt that the market was not there to build 2 more towers, would you be willing to build more retail on this site? On the site that they were going to build their towers, maybe do a joint venture with them or just buy out their development rights to that area?
What I'd like to say is we've always felt that, as the mayor mentioned, Riviera Beach is a special place. We think it's a great destination to develop. And we proposed 100,000 square feet of experiential retail to begin with when others didn't believe in the market. And then the market proved us to be right. We believe that there's an opportunity to create more of a destination appeal here instead of looking at it as a local strip center market, as others tend to do. And so a destination appeal would require us to have more experiential retail, more experiential activities like family entertainment centers, which have always been in our proposal, as well as additional outdoor recreation components So in our proposal, we have the flow rider. We've consistently been talking about that, which is an attraction in itself. We've talked about zip lining, rock climbing, and some other activities that we can activate to make this more of a destination. So the definitive answer to that is yes. We've already been thinking about other things that we can do to enhance the investment that's going to be made here at the marina and make Riviera Beach that special place that it already is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lanier?
Just one question. It's been what, 6 years, 8 years? And I'm saying that because now I hear something that kind of makes sense to me. I'm hearing things that, people are moving it along. People are, they're meeting with good business partners now. So we really need to move this forward if we're going to do it, because I'm afraid we do have a window, and if it doesn't happen now, it may never happen.
Thank you for that comment, and we wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the group Tesla, they're not, everything you just named, are they a part of that?
So the majority of the pieces that we talked about are APD Sonnenblick. We've been working through it. We've taken the lead on Element 6, but we've certainly been collaborating with the Tesla team on the elements. Because we split Element 6 50-50 at the beginning when we merged the teams together. But Sonnenblick is taking the lead on financing. So all the financing for everything I just talked about, the Sonnenblick team is bringing to the table. I just mentioned the construction line, the hotel flag. Both of those hotel flags we've secured under the APD Sonnenblick partnership. But the Tesla team will be a part of the investment entity that holds the assets on Element 6. And so they've been involved in approving or supporting what we're presenting to you today.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
And this is not going to be a holdup.
Oh, that's the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So what we've done in an effort to make sure that we can proceed expeditiously, the staff has given us the guidance to get the written letters, term sheet and letters of intent between APD, Tesla, and Sonnenblick on Element 6, so that there's no discontent related to that. That was one of the things that we wanted to get done before we brought something again before the board. And we can report today that we've been successful negotiating those terms. And I believe some of that has been communicated to staff and maybe directly from the Tesla team to some of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Additional comments from the board? Thank you. And Ms. Dines, thank you again for your commitment and for being here tonight as well.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. We look forward to moving this forward.
Thank you. Mr. Scott Evans?
Mr. Chair.
Any additional comments?
No, sir.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments from the board for Marina Update? Thank you, sir. And thank you, Mr. Finelli. Thank you to JLL, and thank you, Scott Evans.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Clerk?
Discussion item 6A, Executive Director Contract. The acceptance of public comment cards are now closed. Mr. Chair, we have 4 comment cards.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm going to turn the presentation over to a CRA attorney, Mr. Chris Smith, to lead the board through this particular item, and then staff will provide some additional remarks if necessary.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Smith? Attorney Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, our executive director resigned, still as city manager, but he resigned as executive director of the CRA. With that, and under his contract, a mutual resignation is in order if accepted by the board tonight. I've worked with the CRA staff, and we've put together a schedule that we could go through if you want to post for the position, as well as do the interviews for the position and have a committee set up for the interviews for the commission. The way this would work is that the committee setup would receive all of the applications for executive director and basically funnel them down, do the interviews of the Skype as well as do some in-person interviews. Um, Bring it down to maybe 3 or 4 candidates that the board will consider for executive director. If you look at the agenda, the schedule starts May 22nd next week, putting out the advertisement for the position. For that, we've gone through the staff of the CRA has done an excellent job of getting the job descriptions from Delray, from Lake Worth, from West Palm Beach, Boynton Beach, and Fort Lauderdale. An excellent job of putting together a packet of qualifications for a CRA director, and we would submit it through the city's solicitation department. So submit it for applicants to put in starting May 28th under the proposed calendar that we have, and that was it.
Thank you, Attorney Smith.
Mr.
We had Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just to provide some clarity with respect to the schedule that was provided. The intent behind the schedule was to give the board something to effectively react to. We did provide folks that it would be our recommendation to sit on the committee from the perspective of reviewing the applicants. And what we mean by reviewing the applicants, they're not going to effectively conduct any interviews. They're going to look at the paper submissions, and then that group in a public setting will then provide for the top 5 candidates. Then the board would effectively get that information and then move forward with the interview of the top 5 candidates, or add an additional person or remove a person. So the authority resides exclusively and inclusively with the board. And then the board would move into face-to-face interviews with also a public reception component associated with that. And so the outline that was provided for is if the board got 50 applicants for the position, it does provide for some screening, but you would get all those particular applications for the perspective of the review process. So I just want to make it abundantly clear that it is the decision of the board as it relates to who moves into each phase of the process. Staff merely is going to assist and allow for a process similar to that of any executive leadership position. I have gone through executive recruitment processes in the past, and this is the process that you most certainly go through. In some cases, they do ask for writing samples. They do ask for copies of presentations or projects and initiatives. Sometimes there's a management inbox that is provided where there is a series of questions that are provided to the executive and how they handle those particular situations. So we can build the situation and the timeline as short or as robust as the board wants it to be. I will certainly assist in facilitating and serving in the role as long as the board would have me in that role. So if the schedule is too short, if the schedule needs to be longer, certainly I'm willing to help the board out as much as possible with regards to transition. I know Attorney Smith and Ms. Desir have worked on job descriptions as well as looking at contracts and salaries and the like, but that's something that certainly we're asking for direction from the board as to how to proceed.
Thank you. Let's take comments from the board, from the public, and then we'll do commissioner comments. Madam Clerk.
Margaret Shepard, followed by Kendrick Wiley.
Shepherd, Riviera Beach, Sedona with Chair, Mayor. Ms. Evans, thank you so much for taking this upon yourself to do it diligently by phasing out. I do want to make sure that as we went through a city of turmoil fighting, trying to get a CRA director, we went bumping heads. I hope this time we take a deep breath and really go out for the RFP to get the best. I know we're landlocked. We don't have too much land that we can build on in the CRA district, But I think it'd be up to us and to
Hold
the
on, pause
residents.
Ms. Shepherd's time. Residents, this is actually the discussion for executive director contract. It's not general public comment yet.
I know, that's what I'm talking about, his contract.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the lands that we're building. I'm sorry. Start back to Ms. Shepherd's time when she's ready. Because you were talking about the land
Before I
development.
start saying thank you, Mr. Evans, for transitioning out with the CRA director. Then I said, because we are moving out, we don't have that much land, we need someone in to help direct us.
See, I got to pay more attention. Ms. Shepherd, you go ahead and get your 3
Lord.
minutes.
I guess that's why I love you so much.
You
Don't pay
got to.
attention to me.
You got to. Go ahead.
Upon ourselves as a time. Don't get in a rush. Make sure that we, our friends, our loved ones, our foes, make sure we get someone that communicate with the residents. And I think Mr. Evans did a good job with communicating to the residents. But now since he's phasing out, I'm a little leery because I don't want to get into that phase again that we can't be consistent. As you can see, the developers here, we should be happy that they're here. We should be happy that people are trying to build here in the city. So with that, Mr. Chair, before I start talking about the land, I want to say to you, Mr. Evans, thank you for your service. Well, you're not going nowhere, so that's a good thing. But I think that we should be careful of who we pick to sit in that seat. I don't ever want to go through this phase again. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Shepherd, thank you so much for your comments. Madam Clerk?
Kendrick Wiley, followed by Mary Bram.
Good evening, Honorable Chair, Board of the CR Commissioner. Only I have one concern today. I just want to, who will be doing the interviews for the 2 interviews for July 21st and the 31st? So my only question, I just want to know who will be conducting these interviews for this position or the new CR director. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weller.
All right, man.
Madam Clerk?
Mary Bram, followed by Erica Davis.
Thank you.
Good evening, board. Ms. Mary Bram, Riviera Beach. I would like to thank the CRA board staff. You have worked diligently here. Pertaining to the CRA director, he came on board in August of 2020. For the general public, it has been said many times, $20,000 an annual salary. This is all what was received on this side here, plus a stipend of $250 for travel. Now, when you get into this, because you will get into this, you better make sure that you know exactly what you're doing. Election is right around the corner. And your timetable here for the general public, I'm just going to give some highlights for the general public. May, which is the day the 22nd, initiation of the recruitment process. May the 27th, job posting. June the 24th, 2024, application period ends. Application period ends. July the 25th, 2024, start contract negotiations. August the 12th, 2024, contract finalized. August the 19th, 2024, the new executive director starts. So you as a board better know what you're doing here. You better know what you're doing here. It is a saying that you can lead the horse to the way of the drink, but if that horse does not want to drink, he will not drink. And this is what has happened. The only thing that has been built here is where Miss Brown's standing at. And some of those that are familiar, Miss Brown's and others. This is why this was built here. You all almost around here with change of orders, this or that. You all are the causing of this here. It's same way with that horse. As a leader, And I've been in leadership, so I know how it works. Not just in government, all of the under agents it is. I know how it works. So you all have played a vital part in this. Not holding whoever you decide on to get accountable. That's another thing. That's one of your changing this or changing that. You all as individuals. This is about no vacation time here was paid to this man here. No was paid to this man here. Now how are you going to negotiate those contracts here? Because you are being watched. You are being watched. Vice Chair, you said you will plan for a continuous progress to proceed.
Thank
I
you for your
hope
comments,
you
Ms. Shepard.
do.
Thank you, ma'am.
I hope you do. Thank you. Thank you all.
Erica Davis.
Good evening, board. Erica Davis, Riviera Beach. Yes, I'm going to piggyback on Miss Shepard and Mrs. Brown. This man was making $30,000 a year. We've had 3 or 4 CRA directors that were making $175, $185, $200,000. Nothing was done. We have $115 million worth of bonds, plus possibly 350 or 300,000, $300 million more coming. We have things to pay for. And I know you guys were pressuring Mr. Evans to get out of that position. Everybody was complaining about him being in that position. He was only making $30,000. He's the city manager. If the CRA is dismantled, everything goes back to the city of Riviera Beach. And who is the city manager? Mr. Evans. So what the justification that you guys were trying to make to get rid of him out of the position doesn't make any sense. And you all better be transparent, and you better follow the policies. No friends and foes, qualified people. And they better have some buildings under their belt as well. We don't want anybody that we have to waste money for to just sit here and collect the check. We want transparency, no cutting, no deals. We want everything to be the way it's supposed to be, because you are being watched. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Additional comments from the board? Discussion from the board. Attorney Smith, go ahead.
To answer 2 questions that the public raised. One, Mr. Evans is only making $22,000 total as CRA director and executive director. And on the question as to who would do the interviews, the initial interviews, like we say, would be the committee members doing the initial interviews. There would be Doug Lawson as chair of the CRA, Scott Evans as director of planning, Shirley Zier's office director, Sarah Maxfield is economic and business development, and Noel Martinez would do the initial interviews. Subsequent interviews can be done and pulled together by the full commission if the full commission sees fit to bring someone else in for a full interview.
Attorney, I'm sorry, real quick, just for clarity's sake, Attorney Smith, you said there would be interviews hosted, or would they just be reviewing paperwork? I think
they'd be reviewing the paperwork. I'm sorry.
So there's no interviews.
And then the interviews would be the board would do the interviews.
So just for clarity's sake, the committee that is selected by this board would review and do a short list of the applications down to 5, and then those 5 would be interviewed by this board at that time. Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The folks that would be on that committee would look at the candidate submissions, their paper submissions, but they would not be doing any reference checks, calling, anything, no contact, no communications with the applicants. Then they will provide for that list, and then the board would be the entity that would effectively look to facilitate the interview process and speak to the candidates. Staff's role after the initial process of screening the candidates will simply be ministerial to assist in coordinating the travel arrangements and the appropriate interview process and the tour and the like. So that would all the interview process would reside exclusively with the board.
Thank you. Ms. Miller Anderson, go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, that was my question, but I just want to be clear too about the applications that did not make it to the shortlist. We'll still be provided those as well. And if there's someone on there that we want to move forward 5 or consider in the 5, we'll still have that opportunity, correct?
Yes, ma'am. You'll all be provided with all the names and applications of those that apply.
Thank you. Dr. Spitters, go ahead.
All right, so then, can you just clarify for me? So then if we were to choose 1 or 2 more people from that list, so it won't be 5, it'll be 7, let's say. So we can add on to the 5 list for the final interviews.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Thank
you. Mr. Chair, if I may.
Evans, go ahead.
Yes, you can add on to that number. It's the board's pleasure. If the board would like to interview 3 or 2 or 10, certainly exclusively to the decision of the board. If the board wants to modify the list that was provided by those that were on the committee to shortlist, they can certainly do that.
Sure.
Mayor, go ahead.
Ms. Evans, who came up with this list?
It was staff, myself and staff came up with the list of committee members, the initial committee members.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Mayor, go ahead.
You're on, Chair, Mr. Chair, you're on that committee list?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
To also provide clarity, that meeting is going to be a public meeting, so it's anyone's available to attend. And the committee, we're going to handle it the same way that we would handle that in the procurement process. There's not to be conversations and discussions with the committee. When the committee discusses the applicants, the first time in which they will discuss it and have to discuss it will be in a open public setting, not in a situation where they're going to have a meeting or discussions. And so that was the intent behind that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And
Thank you. And Attorney Smith, if you could give some clarity as well, why you selected the chair of the CRA to be on that committee, and what was the reasoning behind it?
the reasoning behind this because the chair, not a particular person, but the chair of the CRA as a person to intake all the applications and help narrow it down to 5. We felt that a person from the committee, from the council should be on there, and it should be the chair. If chair decides not to be on it, then we choose another person from the council to at least be on to help narrow it down.
So the selection was just somebody from the board, and the selection from staff's recommendation was the chair.
Yes, it was the chair was the recommendation.
Thank you, Attorney Smith. There's no comments from the board.
Yeah, I think that I see another position or another person that sits on the committee that should be filled. I think it should be a resident. That's sits as a part of that community. I mean, a part of that committee that is going to bring on the CRA director. How you choose a resident, I don't know, but I think that a resident would balance out the committee. But how you do that is, I don't know.
Yeah, and that was brought up also, that a resident can be, but choosing the resident and then the committee doing choosing, we're now adding more time to the timeline. If it's the will of the board, we can add a resident to there, but it would be, the problem is now let's go into a process of how do we choose the resident to be on there.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Dennis?
if there is a desire to comply with that, my recommendation would be a situation where you have maybe the chair of the Planning and Zoning Board or some type of board that's already effectively established if there is a situation where you want to include a resident. However, when you keep it there's going to be information that's going to be in those applications that's of course going to be redacted, and we want to make sure that as the group is deliberating that you don't find out about who has applied for the position outside of that process. And so certainly that's a public, transparent process. We know we will get public records requests with regards to who submitted and when they submitted and the like. But certainly we did want to keep it to a small group, and you do have some professionals that are on there as well. One of the things we were going to add to that is we did have the Black Chamber of Commerce assisting in the meet and greet, but also the public reception side. We're proposing that a public reception be provided on the 31st. That is the 5th Wednesday of the month in July. So the council does not have a meeting, but we are effectively asking for you to convene. But before your meeting, we do want to allow for a public reception where the public, through the Black Chamber of Commerce, has an opportunity to hear from each of the candidates, to ask some questions. So in this particular process, it does provide for an opportunity for the public to get access and hear from the candidates for the position before they get into a formal interview process with the board.
Thank you. And then I also did have a question in regards to the selection committee, and just taking into consideration the votes will be coming from the board. If Mayor Felder, if you would like to take the place of the chair of being on that committee.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, man.
No, because I know you're going to be voting for that person. That was more my concern. Is
And
being on the committee,
that's taking
and
that
then-
consideration with kind of hearing it tonight. That's where my consideration is. If you can sit on the committee, because we will be voting, and then also I believe the chair does assist with the negotiation process of the contract as well. So if you would like to take my place as the member to narrow it down, it's just shortlisting. Even though we're still going to look at it, I have no problem with passing that responsibility now.
Mr. Chair, thanks.
Mr. Chair, is there concurrence from the board as it relates to the process that's been outlined by staff, or are there any modifications or tweaks to what is being provided? In addition to, there is some information that the attorney may want to speak to concerning job description and salary and the like. And so we just want to make sure, does the schedule meet the board's liking?
I'm okay with the schedule, with the process, and that was presented to us tonight. Questions?
Chair?
Go ahead, Dr. Peters.
I just want to confirm that the mayor is going to replace you. Has that been
Yep,
decided?
that was my recommendation.
Yeah, but
If
I
the
don't
mayor
know
was
if he's accepted it.
When we get ready to vote on, that will be part of the recommendation for you to vote on tonight. It's part of the schedule.
Okay, thank you.
that would be but it had to be the acceptance of the mayor.
Chair.
Mr. Chair? Yes, I said.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd also like to add the chair of the Planning and Zoning Board as a part of that committee. That is a resident.
I'm sorry, who?
A resident.
The chair of the Planning and Zoning Board as a resident? Who is that?
I don't know who it is. I'm just saying that if you're going to get a resident, the
Yeah.
suggestion from Mr. Evans was that it would be a board that's already comprised at the city. Planning and Zoning Board, Library Board, but it would make more sense to have the Planning and Zoning Board because that person is a resident.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Evans?
And if it's the board pleasure, we can certainly do that. And the recommendation as it relates to being a member of the Planning and Zoning Board, it is applicable to economic development. The Planning and Zoning Board is, the group that effectively reviews items before it comes before the CRA board as well as the city council. And so we did want to make sure there's some uniformity and some consistency as it relates to persons on the panel that have that breadth of experience. And so.
So Commissioner Lanier, you're recommending the chair of the P&Z or just a member from the P&Z?
Chair.
Oh, the chair, okay. So who is the current chair of the P&Z, Ms. Evans?
I believe it's Mr. Fernandez, Frank Fernandez.
Frank Fernandez.
Mhm.
St. Ryan.
I'm okay with that. Any concerns with that?
No objection, Mr. Chair.
I'm okay with that as well.
So the changes thus far is the mayor of the city is part of the committee, and that the sixth member would be the Planning and Zoning Board chair.
And an alternative, if he cannot serve on the committee, if he won't accept, will we take the vice chair or somebody else from P&Z?
Yeah.
Okay,
Vice chair.
thank you.
Okay.
Additional comments from the board? And we're going to need a vote to go ahead and accept these with the amendments to the present. Properly second to accept the recommendation of staff and before we do take this on the record, Mr. Evans, you've done a phenomenal job. Mr. Jonathan Evans, thank you for the service, from coming back and taking over the CRA and getting it to this level. And contrary to some of the residents, with you seeing kind of the continued direction and pouring into the city, I commend you for what you've done and just thank you for it. So I wanted to make sure we put that on the record and everyone had clarity as to know that this was at your discretion and at the same discretion of working with the board and being the pleasure of the board to continue to work with us. So thank you so much for what you've done.
Mr. Chair?
Dr. Spanish.
Yeah, I'd like to add to what you're stating right now. I believe that the city manager will still take a major role in the revitalization of the city. If the CRA doesn't work with the city hand in hand, nothing will get redeveloped. So I time to do all the work that he has to do now, like the water plant, etc. But we hand in hand with the CRA.
Chair.
Ms. Miller Anderson, go ahead.
I will just echo what they're saying in terms of the amount of work that you were able to get accomplished with your team. I must say that it was impressive because I've been here for a while and I know it has been some difficulties in moving things forward. Many people mentioned tonight that the marina, the event center has been the only thing that we've gotten done over here in a while. And I think that means a lot. I mean, it means a lot that we've been able to make some accomplishments along with the board, obviously working together. But I know you put your resignation in. I still support Mr. Evans in staying in this position. And I'm saying that tonight because I don't know what's coming down the line. I certainly hope we get people to apply who are well qualified, are able to get the job done. I don't know if we have anyone that's in-house that is interested in that, but if so, if we're going to go forward with this process, I would encourage you all to apply. I just really hope that, I know the board, I know over the years, many people have asked for him not to be in that position, carrying us in two different positions. I get it. I truly get it, but I also get the fact that I was here prior to him coming on and, we move very slow in different areas. And so if it's the will of the board to move forward with another person, I can support that, but I do hope that we continue on the trajectory that we're on now, because I've been a part of a group where we have not made any progress. So thank you, Mr. Evans, for what you have done. I look forward to seeing the other applicants.
Thank you, Ms. Miller Anderson. And I guess the only thing is that I know that it was Mr. Evans, and it sounds as if my colleague just doesn't want to accept your resignation. It's more so Mr. Evans has put it out there, and it's just a commitment to the work that you've done. So,
Mr. Chair, let me say something.
Ms. Miller Anderson,
please.
go ahead.
We know people put in resignations too when they're forced. So I do know that exists as well. I do know that there's always been mumblings for the last several years about him being in the two positions. So he put it in, yeah, but I don't know that he put it in because he wanted to put it in. I'm not saying anybody pushed him, but I would say maybe the writing was on the wall. So I applaud him for jumping first instead of getting the boot. So that's just my honest opinion about it. But I'm supporting my team in terms of moving.
To that point, that's the second time I'm resigning.
I can say that. He's not gonna say yes. Why would he say yes? No, whoever.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Evans?
I don't think he needs to answer that, Chair.
I would like clarity because it was put on the record twice by my colleague and also by a resident. So, here's the thing. This is not in jest. This is a serious concern. So if it's going to be insinuated by a resident or by a colleague, the writing is on the wall, I'd like clarity from my staff. Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please.
With respect to, the comments that have been made as it relates to my tenure with the CRA, I think one of the things that I've been proud about is the work that our team has done and with the bonds passing and some of the capital projects and some of the things that, require some time, I think it's fitting for me to transition and focus more on things on the city side. But in my resignation letter, I did explicitly state to the board, wherever you need me, whenever you need me, I'll be there to assist. And so this was my decision to make, and it was a decision that I talked long and hard about. I met with the team about, and whatever the role that the agency has for me, I will serve in that role. And so I'm here. I'm a team player. You all know that. But it was a decision that I made, and had conversations with my family, and obviously willing to help out however is necessary. But it was my decision.
And to that point, the reason I put that on the record is because I ignored the comments of the public, but when it's actually continued to be addressed, I want to make sure it's clear, because I've supported and led with the support and assertion that Mr. Evans has done a phenomenal job, and I continue to support Mr. Evans. And if he chooses to resign, we're going to go ahead and continue to move the city forward. And I appreciate that, Mr. Evans, and thank you again as we continue. Additional comments from the board?
Mr. Chair.
Of course, Ms. Miller Anderson.
So I didn't call names, so I was not speaking to you directly. However, I think we have a number of meetings that are public that has shown that we have always known at some point, if the board changed, he would possibly be taking out. So that is why I said what I said. That is not what Mr. Evans said. To ask him was he forced was not going to give you the answer that he was. That is my opinion, and that is what I have seen and heard during public meetings, which is why I stated that. That may not apply to you. You may not feel that way, but I know what I have seen. That is why I said what I said.
Thank you for comments,
Thank
Commissioner.
you.
Additional comments from the board? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yeah.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner Spiritus,
Yes?
Chair Lawson.
Yes.
That vote passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
if I may, before we move on, I think one of the things that's important with respect to this particular position is the salary range for this position. There has been some time since we've had somebody serve in that particular position, and I just wanted to seek concurrence from the board. Is it the board's pleasure for us to effectively have a range that is consistent with the range that we have for other executive directors here in the city of Riviera Beach to post for the position? We didn't want to post something that doesn't have effectively what the range is. And so for this level of position, the range is probably, your range spread is probably from 120 to effectively 200. But we wanted to make sure that the board was amenable to posting the range. And when we can certainly, that will be a subject to negotiations, but we didn't want something to be out there and the board not be aware of what the posted range is.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. And I guess the question is, our last full-time CRA director, do we have those salary ranges of what we were paying our last full-time CRA director before you? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, it was between the ranges of 155 to 160.
Okay. And that was, what time frame was that?
That was towards the end of Scott Evans' position,
Year?
in the interim position. 2019.
Okay.
The salary range for Tony Brown was 185.
And do we have any comparative CRA director salaries from across county?
They seem to be between the 120 and 200 range.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Lazier.
I did speak to a city here locally, and it was between 150 and 300.
That's even a wider range.
What city was that?
And who?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I do believe for the range that we've put out, I think you should get some solid, competent, and capable applicants in that range. And obviously it's a subject to negotiation. I think who you have on your negotiation team, I think is very important when you get into that particular process. But I think that range would be wide enough to catch some very good candidates.
Thank you. Questions? Are we okay with the range, board? 120 to 200?
And Mr. Chair, if I
Okay.
may, and that's just the range. It's not where people are going to land.
It's just the range. So post the range. Yes, I'm okay with that, board. Thank you. So we're okay with that range. Okay. The 120 to 200. Thank you. General public comments. Comments from the public shall begin at 7:30. Unless there's no further business of the city, in which the event shall begin sooner. In the event that items being considered at 7:30, the comments from the public shall begin immediately following. Please remind the CRA Board of Commissioners has adopted rules of decorum during official meetings, which has been posted at the front desk. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, Commissioner Chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, or the building. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Madam Clerk, how many public comment cards do we have? Thank you, Michelle.
Lloyd Brown, followed by Delcia Brooke.
Welcome, Mr. Brown.
Doing everybody. Hey, I'll take that job. I won't charge nothing. I just want the people. I won't charge anything because I'll be happy looking at the people's faces in the neighborhood. I wouldn't care if you didn't pay me nothing, as long as they're satisfied and they enjoy it. But that's not why I'm up here. Let me tell you, last week I got in a little argument, and it wasn't with the person who said something to me, but I was talking about power. Let me tell you what happened. 10 years ago, I was in the military. Okay, so what happened with me, I go from the lowest rank to the highest rank when I make a complaint. My first complaint started, it was at the city hall because they were building a house. I had paperwork that I showed to this Doja girl that worked in there. I gave it to her. She lost it. Okay, I printed up some more pictures and I took them down to, at that time, it was Mac Bernard, I guess, I don't know his name, and Powell was his secretary or whatever. Now, if you look, it's like musical chairs. Now Powell is in the commission. He's about ready to get out of there. He's trying to get a county commission job. They follow each other. And then the guy he was standing out there with, birds of a feather, flocked together. And that was like Charlie. He got mad at me and told me that my mama wasn't SHIT, but I wasn't talking to him. He don't know anything about what I was talking. I went to every black politician it was. I can name them. I went to Hastings. I went to Taylor. I went to Bernard Mack. I went to everybody that was at the city hall on the council over there. Nobody done anything. So you would have an attitude too. Floors weren't even. The windows were some windows they got out of some house that this contractor had. The floor definitely was uneven. You can see little cracks. So I take it to the city, took it all the way up. Powell didn't do nothing, and now he's running again. Please, if y'all vote for this man, I'm gonna tell you like this. You may as well put me in that position because I would do more for you. And you ain't got to give me squat. Because I've been living here for 70 years. And these last 20 years I've been here are the worst 20 years in my life. We used to have things going on at the parks. We used to have supervisors that were there for the kids. Where did that money go? Where did it go? And then you talking about tearing down Barracuda Bay to put the police department there. You know what the man said? Oh, we won't let them swim. We'll just rest them, because that's what it's going to be. And then with the police, if you don't bring no jobs here, them police going to catch hell. Because when you unemployed, that's what crime's at. I don't care if you're in the white neighborhood, black neighborhood, Chinese, Egyptian, Martian, whatever. When you ain't got no jobs, you're going to have crime. And if y'all don't find these kids no jobs, it ain't gonna be nothing. It's like putting lipstick on a pig.
Erica Davis, followed by Doretta Pope.
Come, Ms. Davis.
Erica Davis, Riviera Beach. I want to make a comment on the presentation for this marina. I want to talk about checks and balances. First of all, you all made the mistake of combining, making a complete master plan for these people to do what they want to do. You have to build around parking. We need a parking garage. Every weekend, our marina is packed. Now, that parking garage should have been something that the city did because we can make that revenue. Even if we had to go get a bond for it, that would be our revenue. This is our revenue. We don't make enough money here because we don't market it enough. You have to market stuff in order to make money. But they shouldn't be doing our parking garage. We should have that money, all of that money. Another thing, this is a marina. This is not New York City. We don't want all of these tall buildings on our marina. We want restaurants, shops, and entertainment. That's what we want. We don't need two hotels. We have the one over there by the port. What is it? The Warren Buffett's hotel. That's what we need. That's it. We don't need another hotel. We want restaurants, shops, and we need to build our own parking to make the revenue. They don't need our money. They don't need our parking revenue. We are in debt now. $300 million worth we will be in. We need revenue. We don't need them to come in and constantly build and take our money. This is the only revenue we'll have over here. So you guys need to think about that. And Mr. Smith, I have a question for you. Since we are changing and getting another CRA director, we need to keep it straight and unconvoluted. We need to have a complete board. What's the policy on that? Could you answer that when you're done? When I'm done, when everybody's done, please answer that for me. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am.
Doretta Polk, followed by Catherine Hunter.
Welcome, Ms. Polk. Ms. Polk?
Good evening. My name is Doretta Polk, and I just want to say that and commend Mr. Jonathan Evans for an outstanding job he did with the CRA director and also city manager. This young man only made $22,000 a year, and it was said that, and he was eloquently saying, basically, that it was his decision, but we all know as citizens, and they are actually talking, that what was coming down the pipe for Mr. Evans. It was stated also on his dice that some of you, and you know who you are, stated that I think he should have only one job, city manager. You know who you are, and the citizens do too. So let's don't have this farce that okay, it would be okay for him to go ahead and remain as the city manager. Far from it. Far from it being CRA manager, I'm sorry. Far from it. Another thing I want to talk about is that I'm glad it's going to be some transparency on the applicants that's going to be for the CRA manager now, that the citizens will be able to know basically a resume, and also will hopefully they will have some experience in running a CRA. They don't have to have an engineering degree, Mr. Spiritus, but have some type of leadership in a CRA. Another thing about that really is confusing to me, when giving this land to the housing authorities, we do need that. We do need that. But Miss Christy Gooddoor, I think her name is, she advised the council she advised the council to put in place a reversement in case the housing authority failed to complete the accomplishment which they said. That was not done. We have these attorneys and she's a brilliant attorney. We have to at least listen to them, the advice that was given to this council. Now, suppose if this housing authority, could they, attorney for the CRA, could they possibly, now that it's given without any claims or anything to revert this land, could they possibly flip this land? And what could happen? I just didn't know. I thank you if you can answer that. Thank you
for your
very
comments,
much.
Ms. Polk. Thank you so much.
Catherine Hunter, followed by Kendrick Wiley.
Welcome, Ms. Hunter.
Hi, I'm Katrina Hunter. The reason I'm here tonight because I've made complaints ever since last year. I had a petition for 15th Street speed bumps because we have a daycare and we have the elementary school. There are cars that fly down 15th Street every day. They place officers there to stop it, but then after a while that stops. And also there are that they don't do checks on. You have drug addicts, you have homeless people that are sleeping between my home and the 9 efficiencies. You have homeless people that are staying behind the efficiencies that are defecating behind the building. I complained about it, and I don't even know who's over that area, but there's an elderly man there also. Things that they should be worried about, they're not. They're constantly harassing him about his grass. As long as I've been living over in this area, his grass has never been high, but they want to harass him about some grass. What they need to be worried about, the speed bumps, the efficiencies there are 3. The owner has 3 over there, 3 buildings over there. One has 9 efficiencies. I think the other one has about 6. And there are probably 4 down where my mom lived. And there was a shooting there. So if you're not doing background checks on these efficiencies, you're bringing the area down. You want the area cleaned up, you're going to have to start from where it's happening. The efficiencies, I don't know who allowed them to do that with 9 efficiencies, not the proper parking. So that's my complaint because I've been complaining. I've had them sign a petition. I walked down the whole street last year, and the same thing is this year. Nothing's done. When are you guys going to do something about it?
Thank you for your comments, ma'am.
Kendrick Wiley, followed by Mary Brown.
Welcome, Mr. Wiley.
Go ahead. Honorable Chairman, Board of the CR Commissioner. I just couldn't help myself. When somebody said that Revere Beach is behind Lake Park, I swear that we got Marina Grant. We just built affordable housing. We have Revere Beach Code. Lake Park just started building maybe 2 years ago. I don't think we behind Lake Park. I think Lake Park trying to catch over Revere Beach. So I had to come up here and say something about that for my city that I love so much. So thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Madam Clerk?
Mary Brown, followed by Tawana Hunter.
Ms. Brown?
Trina.
Brown, Riviera Beach. See, those are some of those neighbors in the Federal Garden, Kelly Heights District, and beyond. This is serious problems that are in those districts. This is what we have said over and over. We want the cameras on, and they stay on in Federal Garden and all around those districts there. Yes, that community is suffering. Ms. Bram has walked it. She had some staff to walk it as well. This is what elected officials do. They work their districts. And this is why the community base is so outraged. And they have a right to be outraged. Please, city manager, let me hear that again, that you all decide to give a director $200,000. If I am incorrect, please correct me. The lobbyist, Sean Pittman, thank you for lobbying this city. Thank you. Our water line here is desperately needed. Thank you, Congresswoman Sheila McCormick, Bobby Power, and all of those sitting representatives that continuously to work to get things done. The CRA director, he laid a lot of foundation. How can you build on a bad foundation? So we know that we have bad infrastructure here. And he sacrificed whatever that he needed in order to look at this city here for what they needed. He didn't want to take no pay. He wanted to work together with the board, work together with the community. But I still say that's you all's decision. That's you all's decision. The all graduates from K through 12th grade, Ms. Graham say, kudos to you. I say kudos to Oxbridge Academy, because whether you like it or not, Baron Trump goes there, my granddaughter and others goes there too. And not only that, all the schools all over the district, Ms. Graham say, congratulations to you. Teachers Hero Award, Emma, I was so busy on Saturday, I attended the soccer, I attended the softball. The Braves of our city won their first game. One is in this community. And something else, Graham must say. On the 14th of May, we were over on Blue Heron over there. That sub place there is called the Boulevard Sub and more. Great food, great entertainment. Murals on the wall are beautiful. They implicate Singer Island, even over on this side. The food is great. Senator Bobby Power hosted that. And it was a great crowd that came out. So kudos to you all.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Delcia Brooke Hamilton.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Spiritus, Mr. Chair, Lanier, Kashamba Miller Anderson, the mayor, and city manager. My name is Delcia Brooks Hamilton, CEO of Pangea Grill. I am really excited this evening, and I must say, because I see now where the city is finally moving forward. Now, this is the only city that's left that we don't have anything going on. We have a waterfront that's just sitting there. There's no revenue coming in. There's a whole bunch of revenue that's been lost. I started this process, and I have to say, I know it sounds like a broken record, but I started this entire process back in February of 2015 when I submitted my, my LOI. And I can identify with Mr. Irons because he started the process in 2018 when he won the bid. Same thing happened with me. But guess what? It's the persistence and the determination, and we're here now. And I asked him the question, where does Pangea Grill fits into this whole process? He said, well, Ms. Brooks, and in order for me to have an agreement with you and your company, I need to have an agreement with the city. So therefore, I'm asking you to please, let's move. We have lost so much money. I have lost so much money by not operating because initially the pad site were separate. They were not part of this master plan. And when, situation happens, Tony Brown was never here anymore. Everything was just looped into one. So therefore, I lost revenue because I was ready to go. I had my investor here. I had my business plan, funds, everything ready to go. But then I had to just wait until a master developer has been selected. So now We do have a master developer. They're ready to go. They have the funds behind them. And I think this was a positive meeting this evening because now we can see where, the city can have more revenue, and we can also get more revenue coming down from the federal government. What you put in is what you get out. So I am just asking you guys to let's move this forward. It's long overdue, and we just have to make a brighter future, not only for the resident, but for our children. Okay, because it's going to create a lot of jobs in Pangea Grill. My restaurant is going to be, it's not going to be like anything that's around here. It's going to be bar none,
Comments?
and the community is,
Thank you for your
they're
comments,
waiting
Ms.
for
Kelsey.
it. So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Mr. Chair, that's the end of public comment.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ms. Evans, you want to address any comments from the board or from the community?
Mr. Chair, I'll address some of my comments at the end.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, 7A.
Request for the CRA Board to review the Hearts of Palm Development Project proposed by St. Mark's Church. The acceptance of public comment cards are now closed. Mr. Chair, we have 2 comment cards.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair and members of the board, at this time, I'll ask the Director of Planning and Development, Mr. Scott Evans, to make this presentation.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The agency is requesting the board to review the proposed new development project that has been submitted by St. Mark's Church. The proposed project is located at 21 West 22nd Street. The site was previously occupied by St. George's Church and Outreach Center, and it has been since demolished, and they would like to replace it with a new church and community outreach center. The previous center had been operating as a feeding and clothing program since 1989. These uses would be improved to create an enhanced space which would provide food, guidance, clothing to the local community, and would provide a more secure community and spiritual center. New site plan applications that are submitted to the city that fall within the boundaries of the CRA are required to be reviewed first by the Planning and Zoning Board and by the CRA Board to provide comments before final approval by the City Council. The comments and position provided by the board at tonight's meeting would then be forwarded to the City Council in the form of a recommendation. This project went to the Planning and Zoning Board on April 11th, 2024, and received a recommendation for approval to City Council. The Development Services Staff Evaluation, which is included in the backup, found that the project provided parking, landscaping, and hardscaping that meets the existing local city codes. This project will provide the following redevelopment strategies. They will improve the look of the built environment of Broadway and 22nd Street, place buildings along the street in accordance with the city's downtown development codes. The improvement will provide the new project, which is entitled the Hearts of Palm. And they've designed the building, which is shown above, to really integrated with the street in accordance with the downtown development. They have provided parking, street trees, integrated landscaping, enhanced public space as a component of the project. Staff is recommending that the board find this project is in compliance and meets the goals and strategies of the CRA plan. And we have also making the recommendation that the applicant meet with the Clean and Safe Police Task Force to identify and implement measures to reduce the impact on the surrounding neighborhood related to those that they serve on the property. And we would recommend that that occurs before they proceed to the City Council for final review. The applicant is here this evening, and they have a presentation for the board.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment cards? Stepped away. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, good evening,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Chair, Mayor, and Board. For the record, my name is Nicole Plunkett. I'm a partner with Kotler and Herring Landscape Architecture and Land Planning. It's an honor to be in front of you tonight to present the Hearts of Palm Center. This is an impactful community project that our professional team, many who are here with us tonight, I've really had the honor of working with such a great team on such a great project over the past year or two. This impactful project, we're excited to be here tonight, and we're going to be presenting the proposed project for you. We have 2 active petitions for the subject property. The first petition is we are requesting a site plan approval to replace the existing St. George's Church facility with a new 9,125 square foot 2-story building called the Hearts of Palm Center. This particular petition was heard in front of the Planning and Zoning Board back in January, and it received unanimous recommendation of approval to City Council. Our second petition is requesting a replat to remove the internal lot lines and to establish public access easements on the north side of the subject property. This petition was heard last month at the Planning and Zoning Board and also received a recommendation of approval to City Council as well. Our applicant tonight is St. Mark's Church, and we do have Father Cook here tonight along with his team, in which he'll make a couple of words in just a couple of moments. Our planners and landscape architect, and yet functional building for this particular property and the operations of St. Mark's Church by Burst Thomas Architects. Simmons and White is leading our civil engineering and our traffic engineering, and our attorneys at Gunster are here as well. And before I dive into the project details of the site plan, up to say a couple of words about the project.
Thank you. It's good to be in front of you all. Thank you so much for the time, and it's good to see you and share what we think is really an exciting plan for the redevelopment of the former St. George's Church and Community Center. And just kind of a quick history about why St. Mark's. We're up in Palm Beach Gardens, and St. Mark's has been really one of the members of the community center, the food service program that we're all familiar with from many years ago, and we've always been a strong partner with St. George's. And over time, that little congregation really struggled to exist. The buildings got run down, security was issues, things that we were all seeing as we came down to serve meals, along with many other organizations in the community. After Frank Killens was back in March of 2019, which is kind of our board of directors, said either we're going to come down to make it better and make an investment in the city of Riviera Beach, or we may decide maybe we'll pull out completely. So our vestry made that decision to go ahead, and we approached our bishop and our polity. That property gets deeded over to us from the diocese, which we're part of here in Southeast Florida. And then that gave us, the freedom to decide what to do. So we thought, well, maybe we can rehab that existing building. That did not happen. It was not doable. And so we decided we would demolish the building and propose a new center that would continue to include the feeding that St. George has always done, which has now formed its own kind of nonprofit called St. George Table. There'll be a chapel always in that building because it really is, a church building by St. Mark's. We'll also include several other organizations in the county that serves. The Lord's Place would like to have an engagement center in this building. Healthcare is looking at putting something in there. Families First is looking to be in there. Our own Hearts of Palm ministry would be headquartered there after all the work that we've been doing down here in Riviera Beach over the years. What I just want to say, you can talk about the details of the building here in a few minutes, but I want to say is that St. Mark's feels deeply committed to being a partner in Riviera Beach. That the meals and then going back up to the gardens or wherever else that we want to feel like we're committed here, that we're making an investment in the community by raising the $6 million it's costing our congregation to build this building and being here
for a long time as you continue to try to redevelop the downtown area. We just want to be part of that. Over the years, St. Mark's has rehabbed probably 80 different homes in the community here, often working with the code inspectors, trying to go in, and someone mentioned, mowing lawns and putting new roofs on houses. We've been doing that for years now. We own a home here, and we're really want to be part of this community. And so this gives us this wonderful opportunity to partner with you and to be part of the city of Riviera Beach, and not just sort of outsiders who come in and maybe do a little bit of good and then go back home at night. And so we're grateful for the opportunity and look forward to getting this thing off the ground and finding a new home for St. George, which is now serving meals over there at Victory City Church. And thankful to Roman Catholic Charities for letting us use their facilities for kind of the headquarters for St. George table now. So it's already bringing the community together in many ways. Make that happen. So I think, is that enough for me?
If you could just also name for the record as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm the rector of St. Mark's Church and School.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Father Cook. Jumping into the details of the site plan petition, this property is located just resting along West 22nd Street, fronting along that street just to the west side of Broadway. The parcel itself is approximately 0.63 acres in size. The property is located within the downtown mixed-use land use and also has a zoning designation of downtown core. It's important to bring this up because we are not proposing any changes to the land use or zoning within this petition. However, we are proposing site plan application and design that align with the downtown core district design guidelines within the city code and also within the regulations of the CRA plan as well. You can see this old photograph. The building no longer exists, as Father Cook mentioned. The building has since been demolished. However, this particular picture, I think, says a lot related to the history of St. Mark's operating outside of this facility. This facility, which they have occupied for a number of years, has served hot meals since the early 1990s. And if you look at it from a pedestrian street level aspect, it really doesn't provide for a pedestrian scale, a walkability scale along this main street front. And I know that those items are described within here. So when you see our proposed petition, you'll see some of the upgrades. I know that Mr. Evans hinted at in his presentation as well. But we really tried to provide for a welcoming atmosphere that is safe, controlled, operated, and provides for a pedestrian scale as well. I'm going to walk you through a couple of our site plan elements within our site plan. Again, talking about some of the items along West 22nd Street, we are proposing on-street parallel parking spaces along with an enhanced widened pedestrian sidewalk along the entire property line, and also providing for new shade trees within represent a 6-foot vehicular access slide gate, and you'll be able to see those in the renderings in the upcoming slides. And then on the south side of the property in the orange line is a 6-foot precast proposed wall. And really the purpose of this is to provide for this facility, which the old St. Mark's property and church did not have control, and really being able to continue to operate in the manner that they're operating to provide services to the community, but also being able to upgrade to provide additional safety and access control, which was very important within the design. With internal to the space, we're also providing for 20 vehicle parking spaces that are utilizing permeable pavers. Now, it's important to note that these 20 spaces will mostly be utilized, if not all be utilized, by the Hearts of Palm facility, meaning the volunteers who are going into the facility to volunteer for meal times, or by the staff who are there operating the facility. That also means that a number of the people who are visiting the Hearts of Palm Center, who are there to receive community services, are not driving by vehicle, that they're mostly arriving by foot or they're arriving by bicycle. And so within our design, we're providing for a couple of flexible areas to accommodate these folks who are arriving. First, I want to point out that we're providing for 10 bicycle spaces on the north side of the site, directly adjacent to the main entry off of West 22nd Street. Also on top of that, our design team is aware of the past queuing lines of folks who have been spilling out into the right-of-way and within the West 22nd Street. And in this new plan, it provides for a few different areas, including an entry plaza, which is pointed out adjacent to the bicycle spaces. Also providing for a covered patio, which is on the southwest corner. Again, you'll see it in the renderings in the next slides. And providing for a private courtyard on the east side of the property near the service entry, which all have flexibility in how they are used, meaning that with the entry plaza and the covered patio adjacent to the parking area, the Hearts of Palm Center is going to be having staff security to provide direction of where people need to gather and prepare to enter the facility feeding and dining time. So providing for a more controlled atmosphere based on what they're already operating on. I also want to point out that the main area of the building is highlighted on the northwest corner of the building, and again, directly adjacent to West 22nd Street. Now, when folks enter the main building area, they're going to be greeted with a lobby area and a front desk. And so they will be greeted by either a volunteer or a staff member to direct them where to go. Again, providing a very controlled access and environment, which was not previously able to be done with the old building design. Looking through a couple of the renderings, I want to describe this particular building is 2 stories. The first floor will provide all of the dining areas, including 2 separate dining areas, along with the kitchen facilities, and there will be a worship chapel as well. There will be flexibility. Flexibility is kind of the main purpose of this with the chapel itself. So if say Thanksgiving comes along and they need additional seating for meals, they're able to convert that chapel into additional seating as well. The second floor of the facility provides for offices, a clinic, and also conference rooms. A lot of the staff and the volunteers would be utilizing the second floor of the facilities. You'll see that this view points out the main entrance of the facility. Again, really breathing into life the pedestrian scale, providing for a welcoming environment for folks and visitors, staff members, and volunteers who are participating in the Hearts of Palm. And so with this upgraded change, we're hoping to really provide for an upgraded experience for everyone who enters the site from the second that they walk past it or enter onto the property. Our architects at Burst Thomas are providing high quality materials for the architecture itself, including brick veneer, painted stucco finish, white metal siding, and you'll see throughout the renderings that there are multiple green wall systems as well. This particular view is on the southwest corner of the building. And this, I had mentioned earlier on some of these flexible spaces. This is the covered patio, which is almost a natural extension from the indoor dining family area. And so this space can be used for additional seating or gathering during inclement weather before the dining occurs. And then you'll see that this particular view highlights the east side where we saw the service and the loading area. This particular courtyard is a private courtyard. Again, it's access controlled. However, it directly connects into the chapel area. So it has flexibility for being used for whatever purposes that the Hearts of Palm wants to use it for. And also on the left side, you'll see a door just peeking through. We're going to be having our service entry along the alleyway on the east side of the property, and that's where our service loading deliveries, those will go through there, and so that way they're not conflicting with any of the folks who are coming in on the main entrance. And just one last graphic and image. Again, this one is looking at the streetscape upgrades and also providing a view of that alleyway. So the vehicles would drive up and they could take a left and make their deliveries. The architecture for all 4 elevations of this building, every single elevation has been intentionally designed and thoroughly thought out. And so there's no back of house per se. It's 4-sided architecture, and it's not only providing for a beautiful aesthetic, but it's also incredibly functional for the needs of the Hearts of Palm facility. And the landscape plan for this particular petition provides for so much more green space and upgrades to shade trees, which they did not previously have within the old facility. And so just a couple of things of importance to point out on the landscape plan. We're proposing on the interior shade trees and the west buffer, we're proposing native mahogany trees. And then it's important to note that on the south boundary, the east boundary, and the north boundary, we have overhead power lines on those three boundaries. And so we are abiding by the Florida Power and Light right tree, right place, and proposing silver buttonwood trees along those perimeters as well. And so with that, we thank you for your time and your consideration tonight. And again, our team is here to answer any questions, and we're just so grateful to bring this in front of you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
Mr. Chair, we do have 2 comment cards. Kendrick Wiley, followed by Mary Bram.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Wiley.
Thank you. Honorable Chair for the CR Commission, Kendra Wiley. Boy, I just want to say I really approve this project here. It's amazing. Father Cook, can you go up there? I'm a resident for 35 years in Rivera Beach. I just want to say thank you. We want to bring this to my city and keeping the work for St. George with the homeless, the feeding, and everything. So I just want to say thank you as a resident, 35 years, third generation.
Mr. Wiley, you address the board.
Hey, boy, I'm sorry.
Address the board.
But
Thank you.
I didn't want to give him his props, but like I said, I think we should approve this. It'd be great for our city. And we know for the downtown, we're trying to do Broadway, everything. So it's a good look. You know what I mean? Good look for the city. So thank you.
Thank you for coming,
All
Mr. Wiley. Ms. Brown?
Mary Bram.
Dear Brown Rivera Beach, kudos to you and your staff. It is much, much needed. For we know that St. George was established in 1989. Yeah. And come out of this year, the governor has implemented city and every municipality must address these needs that are being addressed here today. Cities must have in place some things to address those needs. I'm hoping that this rendering is just as beautiful as what you're going to build for this city here, because it is on our main corridor. And you stress safety. So see your previous CRA director, he placed police in this area and stuff down here. And the loophole has been closed, so see, they get more money to work for you and to work for your establishment. Ms. Graham said kudos, and kudos to the safety there. Also, you made mention about the outreach component that this will consist of. You will provide space, you will provide clothing, food, educational components, am I correct? They would provide all of that because the challenges are much needed now. In every city, not just Riviera Beach. So I thank you all. I thank you all for getting on board with this because like I say, every city and municipality must address these issues now. It is other things that we as a city, we must do. We have to clean up our communities. We have to do these things here. Because if we are to make any kind of progress and have things put in place here, and we do expect for it to be maintained beautifully, because we are a city of beauty. We are by the water, you're on the main corridor. So Ms. Bram and others, we look for these things here, because these are great things here that this city are implementing, bringing forth. So Ms. Bram say, kudos to you, and continue to serve the homeless. Continue to serve the needy. shelter them, love them, care for them. So kudos to you. Kudos. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Brown.
Mr. Chair, that is the end of public comment cards.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Questions from the board?
Yeah.
Commissioner Miller Anderson.
I don't have any questions. I do want to say as well to say thank you all for coming and beautifying that area that is in my district. And I know a lot of times there's a lot of people that are out there, and a lot of people that are in need. But I think with the design of the building, it really gives it a extra touch and be able to control the area so that we aren't, having people all over the place. So I just want to say thank you. I know that you all have been trying to get this done for a few years now, and so I'm just glad. I was happy to see when the other one was demolished, and so I knew you all were on your road to bringing forth what you had planned a couple of years back. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Barrington. Commissioner Spiritus, go ahead.
Father Cook, I'd like to thank you for believing in our city and helping the people in our community. It's very, very important to us. Are you going to run services on a weekly basis out of the chapel? I know it's a small chapel.
The intent is eventually we would like to do that, yes. Do we have to do that? No, but we would like to develop there's been a church there forever, right? St. George's actually gave birth to St. Mark's, and that congregation did way back in the 60s, early 60s. We have members of the congregation who were members of St. George's way back. And so, yeah, we're building a chapel there with the intent that we can do worship there, but we don't really have a plan exactly what that's going to look like at this point. We got to get this building built, to be honest. And then we're from there. We definitely want there to be a religious component to it because it is owned by the church.
Sure.
Dr. Spiritus, go ahead.
Yeah, so I would like to see you have those services on a weekly basis. I think it's very important to the community. So if you could do that, that would be great.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Additional comment, Mayor, go ahead.
Yes. I just want to say to the Cooks, known Father Cook for a while, did outreach with him. He's been a part of Jay's ministry. So we have the right people. And I spent, thanks to Mr. Horace Towns, when I first got elected, we spent a lot of time at St. George feeding. And you don't know how blessed you are till you see some of your old friends that you have to leave behind, and you feed them hot meals. So you guys know where I'm at with you. I support it 100%. Keep doing what you're doing, and you have my blessings.
Thank you, Mayor. Additional comments from the board? Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner Spiritus,
Happily, yes.
Chair Lawson.
Yes.
That vote passes 4-0.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk?
Request of the Rivera Beach CRA Board to provide direction to proceed with negotiations with Forest Development Group on their unsolicited proposal to purchase the property located at 1851 Broadway. The acceptance of public comment cards are closed. Mr. Chair, we have 2 comment cards.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, if I got the Director of Planning and Development, Mr. Scott Evans, to make this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mr. Mayor. The agency has received an unsolicited proposal to purchase property, which is located at 1851 Broadway, which is the former Miami sub-site, and 2 adjacent properties, which are owned by the city. And the CRA staff is requesting the board to provide us direction to proceed with negotiations with Forest Development for this proposal. The Forest Development Group has proposed to purchase the 3 sites, which are combined 2.2 acres. Forest Development is currently constructing the Nautilus 220 project in nearby Lake Park and is in the development approval process for their Oculina project, which is a high-rise residential mixed use on the former Winn-Dixie site at the corner of Broadway and Silver Beach Road. The property requested within their proposal are 3 directly adjacent properties, and they're shown on the map above. The property adjacent to Broadway is vacant and it's owned by the CRA. And then the property adjacent to Avenue E is vacant and owned by the city. And there's a small sliver of property along the east line. The northwest corner of the property that's also included in their request. They have proposed to purchase the property for $3 million to develop a high-rise mixed-use project. They're proposing it to contain 450 apartments, structured parking, and up to 17,000 square feet of restaurant and retail. The proposal included payment of $25,000 for use by the city to study their unsolicited proposal. The attached project provides that the total construction cost would be $250 million, and they estimate that it would create 1,400 direct and induced jobs during construction. And staff finds that the completion of a project of this scope would generate up to $3 million per year in annual tax revenue. The CRA, working with the city, have engaged PFM Financial Advisors. They have provided a summary report on the financial capability of the Forest Development Group to complete the project. Their summary report, which is attached in the backup, finds that the city CRA could enter into a transaction related to this submitted proposal with confidence that the developer will be able to deliver over the full term of the contract. The goal of the CRA is to promote increased tax revenue, promote affordable housing, and general economic development for the city of Riviera Beach. The proposed mixed-use project would promote redevelopment of the Broadway corridor, and it should be designed consistent with the urban design principles established in the CRA plan. Generally, projects that feature good urban design produce both economic and social benefits to the community. And the type of proposed project, and they have shown similar graphics to the projects they have underway in Lake Park and the proposed project in Riviera Beach, would contribute to creating a safe downtown with accessible public spaces, active walkable streets, and providing neighborhood services and retail opportunities integrated into the property and providing those in close proximity to the surrounding neighborhood. The CRA obtained 2 appraisals in order to help us do a preliminary review of this proposal. The appraisals valued the site at approximately 2.9 and another appraisal at $3.8 million. If the board direction is given to proceed with negotiations, the CRA would also seek to obtain the highest benefit for the project. And in doing so, what we would do, we would also proceed with a residual land value analysis. This is different from just a property appraisal where that analysis would assess the proposed development, the number of units, but really to use that process to identify what the appropriate sale price might be for us to negotiate towards, as we would seek to maximize the public benefit. Additional potential benefits that we might, that we'll discuss if we proceed, would be including the provision of potential public parking and some enhanced design considerations for the project. The proposed tasks have been developed to proceed in an efficient manner in responding to this proposal. The CRA has obtained legal assistance and support from Schutz Bowen Law Firm. The attorney Joe Goldstein is here this evening to help answer any questions that the board may have, as this is a city and CRA project. Under the proposed task 1, CRA staff will proceed with negotiations with the Forest Development team with the proposed goal to explore the details of the proposed project, discuss an appropriate sales price, including completing that residual value analysis. And then we would also identify additional public benefits. The outcome of those negotiations would then in task 2 be, along with supporting research and analysis for consideration, would be brought before the City Council to consider the updated proposal as best negotiated. If the City Council determines that they would like to proceed with this proposed proposal, then at that point, the city and CRA would then advertise those properties in accordance with Florida statutes 163.380, which is disposal of property in the community redevelopment area. The advertisement at that point would make all information available and invite proposals from private redevelopers or other persons who might be interested in also undertaking redevelopment of that site. Under task 3, if additional proposals were received during the evaluation process, during the evaluation process, the forest development proposal, along with any other proposals that would be received, would proceed to identify which project is deemed to be in the best public interest, provide the best public benefit, and in furtherance of redevelopment. And that evaluation process would proceed in the way that the City Council agreed to in the previous task 2. So when you make the consideration of the updated proposal, we would also bring to the council a determination on the evaluation process you wanted to proceed. And then task 4 would be the final negotiated conditioned agreement for sale. So once the best proposal is selected, be it the one from forest development or one if we received others from the public, that then selected agreement would then be brought for final approval by both the CRA and the City Council. And that total process is estimated to take 24 weeks. The income from that sale would be appropriately distributed to the city and CRA based on advice from the property appraiser. These dollars could then be contributed to needed public or redevelopment projects as determined by the respective City Council or CRA board in the future. The Forest Development Group has established the ability to construct and develop projects as seen by their work in the area. Staff recommends proceeding with negotiations with the Forest Development Group and the 4-task process that we've outlined. This includes the immediate next steps to include developing a residual land value analysis to further establish what the appropriate sale price is, and to begin discussions on the details of their proposed project. And then this would then be followed by bringing the resulting offer to the City Council for consideration to proceed with advertising the opportunity and making this opportunity available to other members of the public. Again, our attorney Joe Goldstein is in attendance, along with a representative from Anderson & Carr appraisal firm, if the board has any additional questions in your deliberations on this proposal. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. We do have public comment cards, so we'll just take our 2 public comment cards and do questions from the board. Madam Clerk?
Margaret Shepard, followed by Doretta Polk.
Welcome, Ms. Shepard.
Welcome again, Mr. Chair. Thank you. If I remember correctly, this project came before the CRA some time ago, and I'm not too impressed with too much, but I am very impressed with this particular project because on that corridor, I think it's the 11th Street corridor that they were talking about building on. I think this will bring some type of in-depth to the city of Riviera Beach on Broadway. It's a lot of blight in that area, and I think that we can kind of clean it up with this particular project. I'm impressed with the Nautical Center right there in Lake Park, and I'm very excited when they start talking about Winn-Dixie, and we need to start right now. We're building. We're on the go. We're on the move. I think is the most perfect site where the Miami subs were at. If I'm clear with planning and zoning, I can't remember if this particular project, Mr. Evans, came before planning and zoning. I'm not clear, but I do remember them talking about building that particular quarter. So if I'm correct, I hope I'm correct, this will be perfect. This will give us a jump start. $3 million they're paying for that particular piece of property. I think right now it's an eyesore. And I am really ask you all to really think about it. Let's move the city forward. I am impressed with us tearing down things. Now we're building, but now we need something that would be a showstopper. If you go downtown to West Palm Beach, you look to your left and right, they are continuously building. We are not. Let us show the public that we too is in the ball game of making this the best city to live, work, and play. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Loretta Polk.
Welcome, Pope.
Good evening again. My name is Doretta Park, and as far as I'm concerned, and some of the citizens also, this forest development group, I think you all really should vote in favor of this because this particular developer, I'm sure, just as Ms. Shepherd stated, they're affiliated with the Nautilus. So I'm sure they have the financial means to carry out what they need to do for our city. And to the purchase of $3.0 million, we need the revenue. And I think this would really bring this area from brightness to beautification. And I think this will help all the citizens of Riviera Beach. And I do hope you all pass this and let's get started moving for the betterment of Riviera Beach. And as far as the mayor stating that basically the only thing we have is building the marina, no. We have Berkeley's Landing. We have Riviera Beach Cove. We have also this beautiful fire station on Congress. We have another one going on Blue Heron. We, Mr. Jonathan Evans, and also the council, we are on the move for the progress of Riviera Beach. So let's do the best thing for all the citizens of Riviera Beach to make it the finest place to live, play, and work as our motto. And I thank you so much, Attorney Smith, for the clarification. I appreciate that. And let's get on board and try to be kind and professional to each and every one of us in here, to the citizen and also to each of you on the council. Let's be professional. And I thank you very much.
Thank you for comments. Questions from the board?
Chair.
Dr. Spears, go ahead.
Scott, this project is a rental project?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Evans?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, so this could be market rate.
Yes, market rate rental. The proposal listed it as apartments.
Okay, so council members, this goes back to what I was saying to related before. Here is a group that's willing to come in and make an investment in our city at market rate. They're going to take that risk. They're going to put their money up front, and they're going to develop this project. I think we should be looking back at related to do the same thing. Scott, well, Mr. Chair, on a second note, I'd just like to disclose that I do know the Forest Development Group. I've met with them numerous times. And I am building a project across the street from their proposed project as well in Lake Park on Park Avenue. One more question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Dr. Spears.
Okay, Mr. Evans, I'm glad that you are going to step further on the appraisal process and the value of the land. I strongly suggest that you look at what both my group and the Forest Development Group has paid for land on 10th Street and Park Avenue, which is only a couple of miles from the site, to get a good comparable. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Oh, Councilwoman Lanier, Commissioner Lanier.
I want to ask about the difference between the 3,000 and the 3,000, the 3 million and 3.8 million. Can we get to middle ways with that?
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Mr. Evans.
we're looking to do better than the numbers that are on there. That's why the analysis that staff is going to be doing with regards to the property. So our intent is to obviously work with the proposed development, but also to maximize the value that we can get out of the asset. So we're going to do a little bit more research and be able to provide you all with some good information to make that decision. But invariably, that all comes back to you. We'll try to negotiate the best possible deal. And then it also facilitates a procurement process. So there will be situations whereby this opportunity is shared with the public, and then it gives those the opportunities to submit proposals. So we are going to make sure we go to the table with a very sharp pencil.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lanier, you finished? Go ahead, Commissioner Spiritus.
So in response to Commissioner Lanier and as per City Manager Evans, the reason I brought up those comparables is because I paid close to $6 million for a site that's about half the size and not nearly as good a development site as this is. So that's why I'm suggesting, and I suggested to Scott, and he went a step further, which I'm very happy that staff went and did that, rather than look at the appraisals, go to the next stage, because we think that, at least I think that the value of that property is way under what the real market is. Thank you.
Additional comments from the board? I would like to piggyback on that. Mr. Evans, adjacent to this property is Jim Berry Park. If I'm correct of the location?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. That's a county park?
Yes.
Okay. So that would give clear, unimpeded views to straight out to the ocean at a ground floor.
Yes, this property has great views of the ocean, Mr. Chair.
So with that taken into consideration, I just want us to negotiate the very best deal. I'm absolutely supportive of Forest coming in and investing into the community, and like Dr. Spirit has said, making this investment. What is the size of this lot?
It's 2.2 acres.
Okay. We have to maximize on every dollar, because this lot, we have an offer right now or a discussion of a potential $3 million offer with appraised value of 3.8. Remember, we cannot give away any of our land. We have to make sure we capitalize and maximize on all the land that we have and turn a substantial revenue for this. So this gives an opportunity for the IHC PUD parcel with the acreage, a revenue of at least 3 million, if not higher. Is there any additional terms that we can negotiate when it comes to some type of residuals, some type of partnership, or some type of royalties?
So Mr. Chair, if I may,
Mr. Evans.
With regards to obviously what's being proposed, from staff standpoint, I think there is a need for some parking, some public parking. Obviously, with the activation that's occurring in the Broadway corridor, there's a lot of value to, especially with the access to Jim Berry Park. If anyone goes there, especially this weekend, you'll see that park fills up pretty quickly. And so we would say a situation, where there would be access to some public parking. So those are elements. That's one element that we would look to negotiate. But certainly we are going to attempt to negotiate something that allows for maximum opportunities, because the city and CRA does own the property. And so there is some things that we are going to be asking for as a result, not to negotiate here in a public forum, but we are going to do that, and then we'll share with the board in individual sessions some of those discussions and get to a point. But I know that the development team on the other side is very bullish, and they would like to move forward with this pretty quickly, and so would we. But we are going to negotiate a lot of different things that we've heard this board share with us, and then share with you the concepts before we come back and ultimately ask for the city council's authorization to move through the procurement process.
In addition to that, Mr. Evans, can we have and start to engage in some conversations with the county about Jim Berry Park? There was a previous conversation, but if we can maybe bring that back at a later date to have some discussion about Jim Berry and who's actually facilitating, managing. It's a county park, but that may be something that we as a city may want to take into consideration.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Mr. Evans?
certainly as part of the discussion of the negotiations, I think that's something that we can certainly look at. Even a situation where our development partner, if it is the Forest Development Group, can look to manage and operate that to ensure that there's continuity and consistency from the parking experience on that park as well as their particular campus, because there is an opportunity for that. And so we certainly will engage the county. I know that's been a discussion for some time now. We can see if there's an appetite from the county to consider that.
Thanks, sir. And what, Dr. Spadis, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Dr. Spadis. No, thank you.
I was just going to suggest that when we do get paid, I know the city is going to get part of this money. This could be fee simple, right, Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Mr. Evans?
What staff's recommendation would be a sale of the property.
So my question is, is the CRA going to take their portion of the money and put it back into the community, like Lakeview Park and those other areas surrounding East Street, surrounding this project?
Mr. Chair, if I may. With respect to the sales proceeds, both on the CRA and city side, I think that this is an opportunity to invest. At least staff's preliminary recommendation will be to invest in infrastructure that's in that close proximity, because we do want to address some of the concerns that we've heard from the neighborhood and the community. So that's why maximizing the land value is a premium to us. We already have preliminary cost estimates for investments in the Lakeview Park neighborhood related to infrastructure and some other things that the community has expressed. And so staff's recommendation would be that if the sale moves forward, that immediately in that same budget year, you have a capital sheet that looks to invest those monies in infrastructure in the surrounding neighborhood and beautification efforts.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Miller, go ahead.
This property here impacts Park Manor, not Lakeview Park as much. 19th Street and E Avenue is the area where we have the convenience store right across the street. And then we have a lot of potholes and bumps and stuff in that particular area. So if anything else, that would be, nice if they can put some infrastructure or repave our roads or, the pipes, because we're having some sinkholes as well in that area. But I just want to make sure we're clear. That's Park Manor, not Lakeview Park, which is on the east side of Broadway. I'm certainly in support of moving forward, but I did mention before about making sure that we're able to get the maximum amount of money for that, not just giving it away. So I look forward to seeing what comes before us. And then I do want to make sure that it continues to be market rate. Now, I know Commissioner Spirit has talked about that on the other side of Broadway, but I definitely don't want to see a bunch of apartments for low income, because that area in itself is congested. So we don't the area, the people that live there certainly want to make sure that it's comparable for who's already living there.
Mr. Chair, if I may. With respect to the sales and the disposition of the property, it would be staff's obviously desire to effectively see a large amount of the investment occur in the surrounding areas. So it wouldn't be the Lake Park community only, it would be the surrounding communities. And we know that there is some issues as it relates to infrastructure. So one of the things that we are looking is the impact fees that would be derived from that development would also be invested in there. And so not just the sale, but also the permit fees and all the fees that we get as associated with this project. We would want to reinvest that in the surrounding neighborhood that would be impacted by the development. So we would look to come back with a comprehensive plan that looks to address that surrounding areas around the property and then some other infrastructure issues that we have within that particular district.
Go ahead, Ms. Councilwoman, Commissioner over there.
I just wanted to ask, how does this work? So the individuals submit a proposal. Does that mean it goes out now to the public or to other developers to be able to bid on it as well?
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, and definitely, Mr. Evans, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I believe the process to be is that we will negotiate the terms and conditions effectively of what the arrangement would be. After we got to a point where we're comfortable, we would share that information with the board in a public setting, and then the board would say, proceed forward, and then we would put it out for a 30-day notice to say any other, the city is, or CRA is interested in getting into a relationship with this development group. If you are interested, you have 30 days to be able to submit your proposals. If other proposals are received, that is scrutinized, and then ultimately those items come back before you for consideration. So it does facilitate a process, a procurement process that allows for developers to come in if they are interested in accomplishing effectively a better deal than what the city can work out.
Okay.
Additional comments, questions from the board? Mr. Evans, would it be within our negotiation means to incorporate the discussion about the IEC PUD component into this proposal? The reason I'm asking, just to kind of get clarity for that, is a lot of the options that we have is either a contribution to our housing fund or to actually invest or to develop or build housing. Is that something that we could look for with possibly getting some of these development partners to come in and help with building some housing?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Mr. Evans?
That's certainly something that we can have the discussion with them about because it depends on the economics of the project and in fact what we're looking for and what they're looking for. And so that's something that we can certainly have the discussion as to, you know, densities and intensities and what they're looking to develop on the site. But certainly as part of their entitlement process, you know, I don't know where, you know, 20 stories may be the limit for them, or maybe 40 stories. I don't know, but that's certainly something that we'll flush out in the discussions with them.
Yeah. So is the next steps for us is what are we looking for, Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair, from staff's request is we're looking for direction from the board that you are in concurrence with staff's recommendation to move forward with this particular process to commence the negotiations with the Forest Development Group and then bring back the proposed terms of what an agreement would look like. If the board is amenable to said terms, then it will facilitate the appropriate public solicitation process, and then ultimately item will come back before you all for the purposes of a decision. So that's what we're asking for. But what I would like is I believe that today we made it, or I think the board made it abundantly clear and has made it abundantly clear, the sense of speed in which we move is important. So I would encourage the board to adopt, whether it's within 60 days or some time, that we have to have a deal back before this board for the purposes of moving this item forward, because this is prime property. The cost for construction is going up, and obviously we have a vested interest in moving this quickly, and we don't want to belabor the point and want to meet the board's expectations. So one of the things I would ask for the board is to consider, you know, setting a timeline in which we can bring an item back before you for consideration, and then ultimately move through the process, because right off the bat you have a 30-day window for the public solicitation that's already baked in. So if the board wants to see something at, you know, whether it's August or whenever, I think setting a deadline to come back before you is important.
Agreed, wholeheartedly. Commissioner Lanier, go ahead.
So that means that we can get a time frame of 60 days? That's what we should do.
Thank you. Additional Commissioner Spears, go ahead.
Mr. Evans, both Mr. Evans, can this be done in 30 days?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Evans?
I certainly think it can. especially I think with the developer understanding the sense of urgency. I think we can facilitate meetings as early as this week, maybe next week, to move the day. But I think we have to set that parameter to expedite the process. We don't want this to be a prolonged process. So I think we can go for 30 days, and if anything, comes up, we can always ask the board for another extension because of these circumstances. But because you already have a 30-day window with the public solicitation process.
To that point, I do want to expedite it and move in an expedited fashion, but if our staff is saying if 60 days, I think maybe we should go with the 60 days, Dr. Spiritus and Commissioner Lanier, because giving enough time to negotiate it and also bake in that 30-day for the public solicitation regardless. Go ahead.
I think staff is saying they can do it in 30 days.
Mr.
And then
Chair?
if they have to, they'll come back to us if they need additional time.
What we can do is no more than 60 days, but we can look to bring it back in 30 days. I think you have staff's commitment as it relates to that. And, we do have monies that have been provided from the developer to assist in some reviews that have been provided. So a lot of the financial analysis has been completed, and, it's just a couple of things, nuances that we would have to work around.
Are we okay with just getting an update in 30 days and then have this back before us in 60? Is that okay?
I think we're saying we would like to get it back in 30 days, and but not to be more than 60.
I'm okay with that. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair,
A question.
our
Go ahead.
meeting,
Hold on, Attorney Smith. Commissioner Anderson, go ahead.
I mean, if the solicitation has to be out for 30, then you have to still negotiate with the other people so how do you do that in 30?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
So if we put it out for 30 days and then we do get a response, then the final agreement, that's going to take a little, if there's other proposals. If there's not any other proposals, then it goes through the particular process. So if we get more proposals, then invariably the timeline is going to change.
Okay, so it
Yeah.
would have to be more than 30.
Right.
Yeah.
It depends on the additional proposals because those have to be
Right,
vetted as well.
Okay.
But if we don't get additional proposals, then we stick to that 60-day timeline at most, preferably 30.
Yeah.
Attorney Smith, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to point out our schedule for the summer is June 12th and July 24th. So we'll meet again in 60 days, but our next meeting won't be for 30 days. It'll be June 12th, which is less than 30 days.
So we should just go ahead and plan for July 24th to have this agreement back before us, being that we're going to be meeting under 30 days in the next meeting. Okay?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
That's Mr. Evans, go ahead.
That also would be the date that you would be having interviews for the executive director. So just be prepared. There may be a situation where I ask the board, maybe we start earlier, an hour earlier to handle this particular issue and then get into the interviews. But we'll work through this and get to a point. And even if there's a situation where the CRA needs to convene before a city council meeting for the purposes of handling this, we'll work through the logistics.
Special meeting, right? Additional comments? Mayor, you okay? Thank you, sir. Commissioners? Okay.
Do we
So,
make the motion?
Mr. Evans stated it. Do we have a motion based
So
upon?
moved.
Second.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Madam Clerk, you're clear with the motion and direction from the board?
Yes.
Thank you. Additional comments? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier,
Yes.
Commissioner Spiritus,
Yes.
Chair Lawson.
Yes.
That vote passes 4-0.
And I just wanted to say thank you to Forest Development for making an investment and commitment, even if this is just the beginning phases, an initial start to a great partnership. So thank you for your interest in our city. We look forward to working further down the line with you guys. Thank you. Comments from the executive director?
Yes, Mr. Chair. With respect to one of the individuals that came and spoke about the concern they had with speeders, I did ask for the major to make contact with the individual and find out exactly what the issues are, so PD can effectively look to address those issues, and then we'll circle back with engineering on the speed bump side as well. With respect to permitting and expediting permitting, I am going to make it a point to personally go see what we need to do to support our staff to help process those permitting. The good thing is that I do get notifications concerning the numbers of permits, and we're at really good numbers as it relates to historic numbers in the permitting. So there's a lot of activity, but certainly know our staff's working really hard, and we're going to provide some augmented staff support services to be able to assist them. With respect to my announcement as it relates to the resignation of the position of executive director, obviously I will have more comments when it gets to be effectively that last day. But I do want to take an opportunity to thank the staff. They have been outstanding, from the admin staff to the ambassadors. It's been a real pleasure. I've learned a lot from them, and they originally were apprehensive as it relates to me coming over, but now it's great to have both the city staff and CRA staff fighting for my infection. I've got a little a snack basket in my CRA office, and so I showed my admin at city to say the CRA they have my own little snack basket, but they've been outstanding, and the staff has just been very supportive, and so I appreciate it, and certainly thank you for the board's confidence in me to serve in that capacity. But one of the things I will tell you that I'm super proud about is that our group, our team collectively has gone to get professional certifications, myself included, and towards the October at the annual conference, I think most of your CRA staff will be certified redevelopment professionals. And I can tell you, when we go talk about the things that we're doing in Riviera Beach, we are light years ahead of a lot of other CRAs, and we are routinely sharing information with them about some of the things that were happening in our community. So you should be very proud of your staff and the team that you have. And whoever has the fortunate opportunity of leading this team is going to get a fine group of professionals that are committed to this community. And they all are family. And so I've appreciated the opportunity to work alongside of dedicated professionals, and certainly we'll miss them. And I already told them that if the new CRA director doesn't love them, we've got vacancies over at the city side. So we'll take them with open arms. But thank you to the staff, to the board. Thank you for the opportunity to serve in that capacity. But I would have more comments when it is in fact my final day. And I did leave the door open that if I, by me resigning, if I came back as an ambassador, I would actually make more money. And probably have a little better schedule. But nonetheless, it's been an absolute honor, and it's been a lot of fun. So thank you for the opportunity, and looking forward to moving some of these projects across the finish line, and transitioning and giving the new executive director the keys to the car so they can accelerate some of the things that we have on the horizon. So that concludes my comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Attorney Smith?
The only comment, one, that spoke to Ms. Brown about her question during the citizens portion, and for Ms. Davis, her question would be a complete change of the board would have to be a change of city council, because city council sits as the board of the CRA, so you have to go on the city side to get a change of the entire board for the CRA. The other thing about waiting on Ms. Evans to bring it up. The other thing about
Yes, my apologies, Mr. Chair. One of the things that in, I believe, July, the agreement with the Pittman Law Group is set to expire. And so we wanted to seek direction from the board as to how you wish to proceed. Is it a public solicitation process that you want us to facilitate, or request for qualifications? Are you amenable to a contract extension? I just wanted to get direction from the board, because one of the things we didn't want to have is the agreement to effectively expire. I've had conversations with Mr. Pittman and his team, and so they're at the pleasure of the board with regards to this, but certainly want to get direction on how the board wishes to proceed.
Yeah, I think that we should do a 1-year extension, and then put it out for solicitation. But for right now, because it's coming up so soon, we need to give it a 1-year extension at least.
What are the current terms of the contract? Are we it's coming up in July? I just want to understand a little bit better about the contract.
Yes, the contract doesn't allow or doesn't call for any periods of extension or any additional terms. So the contract is effectively set to expire. And so we want to have either an item before you for consideration for granting an extension, or authorization from the board to proceed forward with a public solicitation.
How was this firm hired previously? Was this solicitation?
Yeah.
Was it a public solicitation?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This was a public solicitation that was provided for. I believe it was a request for qualifications whereby Mr. Pittman's firm was the #1 ranked firm, but there was a public process.
And that contract was negotiated for, the solicitation have anything about the timeline, the terms? Was it just negotiated for this period? Was it 3 years? What are some of the details?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I
Go
believe the term was for a 3-year, 3-year period. And there was a monthly retainer that is paid for services. And then if there's any fees, I think the retainer is $10,000. And then anything over 40 hours, then the city pays for additional costs or any specialty services that are acquired through the law firm. The CRA does pay for that.
Okay. And the solicitation, did that outline a timeline at all? Did that have any clear direction as to how long our firm would be retained? Because I know the contract was 3 years, but just to get some more clarity on where we are now.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
In the contract or even in the solicitation, it didn't have any specificities that this would, something that is, for a longer term. Usually in most contracts, which I'm surprised that we didn't have that, but usually you have an opportunity for at least mutual extensions. Certainly that would be something that I would encourage the board to consider in your subsequent agreements, but this was for a 3-year term. And then obviously, seeking direction from the board as to how you wish to effectively proceed, but it was for a 3-year term, and it wasn't a situation where it was contemplated for subsequent renewals because that would have been provided for in the contract.
Okay. I would be in favor of that 1 year. Actually, the extension of extending it longer and possibly negotiating a longer term. I'm not sure if the board or the pleasure of the board is looking for a public solicitation. What's our timeline? But I'm satisfied with my legal counsel and the service that they have provided. I'm okay with the 1 year. If the pleasure of the board is to negotiate, but even if we can negotiate a longer term, it depends on what the pleasure of the board is. I would actually wouldn't have a problem with doing another contract for 3 years. So it's just the direction of the board.
Yeah.
Ms. Miller, go ahead.
Yes, I would be in line with your thinking as well. Doing an extension for the 3 years if we can do that. But if we can't, if the board isn't in line with that, then at least the 1. I think they've done a great job.
So that would be my recommendation. Dr. Spiritus, Commissioner.
I agree with 1 year extension and then solicitation after that.
Okay.
Mr. Evans, if I may, so we'll bring at least an extension back, and then what would the board be amenable to a situation where we can bring both a 3-year and 1 year, or we can bring a 1 year with options for renewal that the board can, execute mutually for a term of 3 years or whatever. We can try to get to that happy medium.
If we can have something by the June, because this expires July, you said?
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes, sir.
Yes, and it would be staff's recommendation that we get something on your June meeting.
Right. If we can get on the June meeting for at least the 1 year, because I think all the board is in agreement for a minimum of 1 year, bringing both options, and then we can have more of an in-depth discussion then.
Understood, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Good. Attorney Smith, any additional comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Comments from the board, starting with Commissioner Lanier. Commissioner Spears.
Thank you.
Commissioner Miller Anderson. Mayor's gone. Board, no further business. Meeting's adjourned.